I will call this meeting to order.
The City of San Clemente respects the many people of different faiths who reside here. The City Council historically begins its session with an invocation offered by one of the religious leaders of our community, with full appreciation of our shared belief that we are one nation under God. And while the City cannot endorse any particular religion, we respect the religious freedom and freedom of expression of all our citizens to pray as they feel led to pray. We don't have an invocator for this evening, so.
Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Good evening, and please join me in prayer. Lord, help us tonight to make decisions that are fair, balanced, wise, and always in the best interests of the people of San Clemente on every level. We appreciate your guidance, we appreciate your wisdom, and we thank you for this beautiful place that we're all able to live in. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our great nation. Ready? We begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Donchak, Councilmember Ham,
Here.
Councilmember Swartz.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown. Here. Mayor Ward.
Here.
First item on the agenda is presentation by San Clemente High School students Sarah Barnes and Brigham Merity concerning campus activities. But I don't see them. Okay, next item is presentation by Don Brown, Planning Commission Chair, concerning Planning Commission activities.
Good evening. Good to see you all again. This is our quarterly update for the Planning Commission activities since February. We've had a lower level of effort during this period, probably because of the moratorium issued by the courts and some other issues. But recent accomplishments, the Forest Ranch Specific Plan Amendment for the Short-Lived Senior Housing, which you also have seen and approved. Interesting effort up on Camino de los Mares. We issued 2 group counseling permits per our new city ordinance. These counseling businesses were there, been there for 4 years. When we redid our ordinance and located that area, that zone for counseling, code enforcement went through there and found these 2 businesses had been operating there for 4 years, so we brought them in compliance and brought them before the Planning Commission per the new ordinance. We also approved Drift Distillery Tasting Room. We have 4 beer breweries in town now, and now we have somebody that's going to do hard liquor on Amundsen, just up from the city offices over there. So pretty soon we're going to have a real Oktoberfest capability in this town, is the way we're going. We did 2 cultural heritage permits during this time, one on Aragon and one down on Victoria in the Pier Bowl. Very nice developments. Traffic Commission, we had a study session looking at projects and engineering process and methodology for the other planning commissions, so we know how the traffic engineers do their work. In the near future, on tentatively June 7th, we'll have the Miramar Event Center coming to the Planning Commission. June 7th is tentative schedule right now with community development. In preparation for that, we've had 2 study sessions on Interior Standards for Historic Resources and on CEQA in regards to historic resources, so that we're prepared for this presentation by the applicant. The Design Review Subcommittee, a few items on their agenda that soon will be coming to the Planning Commission, of course, the Miramar Event Center, but also the Rancho San Clemente Tennis Club / Lifetime Fitness passed through Design Review Subcommittee and is working its way to our agenda. In the T-Zone, we've got 2 developments, the Thomas Building on Granada and Zoe's Restaurant on Del Mar, that they're still working on design review as we speak. Recently, we had the EIR scoping meeting on the outlet mall sign request, and so that's going through the EIR process, but that will be on our agenda. Staff's hoping to get that to us sometime this summer. There is, in the near future, hopefully in the near future, we continue with the zoning ordinance updates. The new city planner trying to get the 6 remaining chapters split into packages of 2 ordinances at a time, one hard, one easy, and we need to plow our way through that so we can get it up to speed with the Centennial General Plan. And so that's her plan right now, to get it coming to us in the next 2 or 3 months. On the local coastal plan, staff has received comments on 4 of the 7 chapters from the Coastal Commission staff in Long Beach. They started with easy chapters 1 and 2 and 6 and 7. They're working their way to the hard chapters in the middle. We'll see how that comes about. Possibly in the near future, housing element / SB2, part 3, 4, whatever, as that all evolves. I think James and Cecilia and you had a good trip up to Sacramento and helped with a breakthrough on the housing element, which is, I think, actually being published now for comment. In the next week or so, we will also be reviewing the capital investment program, consistently with the general plan, which is required by state law. We do it every year. And future, of course, continue through the specific plan updates starting next year. Our city staff is going to hire specific people to help with that, along with hopefully completing the zoning ordinance update, a local coastal plan, if we ever get the feedback from Coastal Commission. They've only had it for 15 months. And of course, continue other required businesses as necessary. And if that's all I have to brief what we've done since February. Any questions?
Thank you for the report. Could you let your colleagues know that we're looking forward to the joint meeting with them at the end of May?
Okay.
And I would very much like to hear what you all think were your biggest accomplishments in the last 12 months as part of your presentation.
Okay, I'll take these quarterly
Yeah,
reports.
maybe
and,
your top 5.
I'll
your
fold
top
them
5.
into, and I won't
As a
reread this
commission.
one to you. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
as a commission, yeah.
Oh, you want it as a commission? Okay. Thank you for the challenge.
Don, I just want to say thanks for coming up and doing these. We really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah,
I know
love
it's a lot
to-
of extra work, and
Okay,
it is appreciated.
Thanks, bud.
appreciate it.
Members of the audience who wish to address council on matters that are within the jurisdiction of the City of San Clemente but not separately listed on the agenda may do so during the oral communications portion of the meeting. A total time limitation of 30 minutes is allocated for oral communications part 1, with each speaker being allotted 3 minutes in which to give his or her presentation.
We have a number of cards. In order for everyone to speak, I'm going to call 3 names at a time. Please come up and stand behind the person that is speaking so that you'll be ready to talk. When you hear the buzzer, please finish up what you are saying so that the next person can speak. The first speaker is Bo Middleman, Richard Noble, and Charles Newland. Yes, I plan on 30.
Hi, I'm Bo from Palm Springs. I'm here in support of the repeal of the hateful ordinances 1616 and 1622. They must be repealed. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Noble?
I'm Charles, actually.
Charles Newland, thank you.
Yes. I just want to say that ordinances 1616 and 1622 are appalling, that all lives matter. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and community members of the City of San Clemente. My name is Richard Noble, and I live in Palm Springs, California. I'm going to out myself here. On December 8th, I'll have 10 years of sobriety and 10 years of recovery, and that has taken a lot of work for me to get to. And I have also been a member of the Sober Living Coalition Network, and have been through extensive training. And I don't like the hate that I see going on around here, okay? People with disabilities aren't to be shipped off to freeway internment camps. That's how I see it, okay? People in recovery will not be discriminated against and dropped off to freeway concentration camps. All sober residences are found to provide life-saving and neighborhood-saving elements, and we encourage and welcome their development and lawful presence in the community. It is deplorable, you are deplorable to discriminate against Americans with disabilities. There's no amount of stiff-lippedness that I can get. It is your kids, your coworkers, having the dark, gloomy day of depression come into their mind, and one day they can't get out of bed. It's the mother who becomes addicted to prescription pain medications, whose son in your local high school finds them and then goes to heroin in your high schools. It is right and just to repeal San Clemente City Ordinances 1616 and 1622. In 2 weeks, I see the lawsuit, I see the paperwork, I see the hateful things that NIMBY has said. They're lies. Driving here tonight, I would buy a house that should be shipped over by the freeway. That dumpster out there, somebody should be fired. Who's taking care of City Hall? Oh, I'm sorry, somebody comes out of a sober living and they drop a cigarette on a sidewalk, and that's enough to do a city ordinance to discriminate and segregate? Isn't that what we did to Native Americans and their Indian religion? It took women 100 years to get the right to vote. We just had a wonderful African American president for the last 8 years. How long did that take us? Let me tell you what the culprit here is: selfishness. Selfishness is the culprit. Selfishness. Are you thinking about those kids' lives? Are you thinking about their families, or their jobs, or their careers, or their education? Repeal this ordinance. We will be back, and I will be presenting the mayor with my own proclamation in the reversed language that you gave to us in 2 weeks. Because lives matter. People are dying.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Melissa Mucci, and I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, Joshua Henderson, and Rochelle Brackman.
Hi, my name is Melissa Musi. I'm originally from Northern California, the Central Valley. I suffer from severe depression, and thanks to this beautiful city, I was able to overcome it almost 5 years ago. And these city ordinances, if I were to come here now with my depression, I wouldn't have gotten better. I wouldn't be alive today. Please repeal these city ordinances. I came to your town as a broken 19-year-old, and now I'm standing before you as a functional, contributing member of this community at 24. Please repeal these ordinances to save lives. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Josh Henderson. I've been a City San Clemente resident for most of my life. I was born in the San Clemente Hospital. My family owned a burger stop in San Clemente before it got shut down. I want to clarify that I'm not a drug addict. I'm going to let everybody know now that I'm an outsider from a point of view, noticing that there are people here who come to get help. It's my responsibility working for a treatment center and knowing that people have a drug addiction, that no matter what their behavior is and no matter what they suffer from, I have to help them. And I wish the city of San Clemente would understand that. I know that some families complain, I live next to a sober living, this is terrible, they're always loud, they're smoking cigarettes. Well, you know what? If we don't help them, we don't get any better, knowing it's our obligation as a city of San Clemente, and no matter how many sober livings we have, if those people go and die on our streets, well, how does that make San Clemente look any better? I would rather have 100 people in a sober living than 100 people dead on the streets because they overdose from heroin. It's been factually proven that heroin changes the way people think. We know that there are people who pop pills. I wouldn't say I know anybody here very well, but there could be somebody here addicted to pills. And you don't know if one day they're going to just take one too many and die. They could be 80 years old, they could be 15 years old, you don't know. And the fact that they need to be given treatment, I think breaks federal law, I'm pretty sure. So just from seeing what's been happening in San Clemente in the last 2 years as I've been working for a treatment center, I'm very proud to help people. And I think it's almost deplorable and offensive to see the city of San Clemente wanting to not support that, because I believe it's very important that we help people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol and people who have a mental health disorder. It's better than seeing them on the streets, and it's better than seeing them dead. Thank you.
Next speaker is Rochelle Brackman, followed by Martin Lugo, followed by Amanda Merritt. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shelley, and I am a San Clemente native. I've raised my children in this city. I've always been proud to call this city my home. My son's father was a local resident and attended San Clemente High School. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get emotional. When he was still in school, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and having such a stigma placed on mental health, he was initially ashamed to go and get help. And watching him suffer through that was a horrible thing. When he finally did break down and it was unbearable for him and he reached out for help, there wasn't adequate mental health programs easily accessible to him. And he ultimately took his life. Our son was 11 when he lost his father to this devastating disease. My son is now 15 years old and attends San Clemente High School. He's starting to exhibit some of the traits that his dad did, and I'm terrified. I sincerely hope none of you have to go through this with your family, because it's as a mother, there's nothing more that scares me to think that he's not going to be able to get help that he needs. The ordinances, I beg you to repeal them. The stigma placed on mental illness and drug addiction needs to stop. Mental health facilities and treatment centers, they save lives. I've seen it. I've witnessed that. I don't want to bury my son like I did his father. The discrimination is heartbreaking, and the epidemic is not going away. The city's making it harder for families who are suffering and watching their loved ones die. The facilities aren't the problem. They're the solution that so many people desperately need. I beg you to please lift the ordinances and repeal them. Thank you for letting me share my story and listening.
Martin Lugo, followed by Amanda Merritt, followed by Bernard Oakley.
Hi, my name is Martin Lugo, and I live and work here in San Clemente. And I, too, am in recovery. I have 10 and a half years clean and sober from alcohol and drug addiction. I'm also a strong believer in Christ. I'm a Christian. And as a Christian, the Lord calls upon us to love on everybody, regardless of their walk. These people are broken. And if there's any Christians in this room, then it is our duty, we are obligated to help these people and not turn our backs on them. And this is what I'm doing. I work in recovery, so I'm paying it forward. And any time that I can drop a seed in one of these clients' hearts, not everybody's going to get saved. Not everybody's going to want the help. But those that really do want it, put the effort in, and they flourish. And any time that I can just give them a little hope, a little encouragement, and let them know how it worked for me, then it makes me happy to know that they come back to me later and say, I remember when you talked to me 2 or 3 months ago or whatever. And just that little bit of conversation I had with you made the whole difference in the world to keep me in this program. So I am in full support of the repeal against the city ordinances 1616 and 1622. God bless you all.
Hi, I'm Amanda Merritt. Please repeal 1666, 1616, I'm sorry, and 1620. We are saving lives. They're saving lives every day. I would rather live next door to a sober living than live next door to people using and people with mental health disorders. So please repeal these orders. Thank you.
Bernard Oakley, followed by Jacob Bennett, followed by Warren Vidrine.
My name is Bernard Oakley. I'm a resident of Tustin, California, but I have the honor of working in San Clemente, and I really appreciate being able to come to work and enjoying this wonderful city. Just as an example, I'm an operations manager, and I get the complaints from my neighbors and stuff, and I have a good neighbor policy, and I work with them very closely. In one of my San Clemente residents, when I first started, the neighbor was very unhappy with us being there. A couple months later, his son needed help, and we were able to bring his son in. We helped his son, and then a year later, we were able to hire his son as a driver. And with this being possible, you know, we still have the same house, we still have the same neighbors. I don't get any complaints. He understands, he has lived it. So once you live it and walk in the shoes of somebody dealing with addiction, then you can really understand. So I understand that maybe none of you have walked in those shoes, and I hope that you never have to. I'm in recovery myself. I will have 14 years on July 5th. And, you know, I'm very proud of it. I'm originally from Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I came here to start a new life, not through treatment. I was 14 when I came here, and my mom passed away 3 days before my 21st birthday, and my life spiraled down. I didn't have the support that I needed, and I didn't know how to find it. Sovereign finds people just like me and helps them before they get as far along as I did. Luckily, I was able to turn my life around, and now I stand before you advocating for the people that we help and the people that I am. So please repeal 1616 and 1622. Thank you very much.
Hello, I am Jacob Bennett. I live in Vista. I do work in San Clemente, and I'm blessed to work with those that are suffering from mental illness. I really don't even know what to say. The fact that the city is targeting those that are suffering from mental illness just astonishes me. And let me tell you, working with them and seeing progress happen each and every day, because things do go well when we do what we do, there's nothing more rewarding. There really isn't anything more rewarding than see somebody coming in at a state where they can't function, they can't communicate, they can't speak, relay emotions, and then days pass and you start to see things start to unfold the way they need to be. I'm here standing for those suffering from mental illness, supporting the repeal of hateful ordinances, trying to inhibit those in dire need of treatment. It's obvious what the right thing to do is here. Please repeal the ordinances.
Following Warden Vidrine is Hector Espinosa and Suzanne Helfing, and that is our last speaker.
I'm here to speak about another important topic. We need a hospital. There has been a large movement over a few years now. The object of the exercise was, and still is, to get a hospital in San Clemente. Now, I see kind of a stalemate going on. There's a lawsuit. The Memorial Care is successfully staving off any kind of competitive hospital coming in here, which is probably good for their marketing plan. We have a way around that. I heard the council announce this. there's a piece of land on La Pata, which is designated for the hospital, or so I was told. That is a way around it, and whether the hospital ends up there or on Los Mares, because once the stalemate is broken, Los Mares may be available. But the property on La Pata needs to be presented as a hospital location. I would like to see some materials, maybe even a brochure, internet or otherwise. My wife and I have some connections with the hospital industry. We can't help you right now. We need to have a piece of land that doesn't have a lawsuit hanging over it to point to, and some assurance that the council will support such an initiative. That's why I'm here, and that's what I'm talking about. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hector Espinoza, and born and raised in Mission Viejo, California, currently residing in Aliso Viejo. I just came to show my support for the repeal of City Ordinance 1616 and 1622. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Helfing, and I'm from Aliso Viejo, and I, like a lot of people in here, have had my problems with addiction in the past, and I have 6 years clean, and it's thanks to treatment and recovery programs. Thank you. And it's thanks to treatment centers, and if I didn't have that stuff available to me, I wouldn't have been able to get this far. And I think everybody in here knows somebody who has had a problem with addiction or mental health issues, and I think closing the door to them and taking away the help that they need is the wrong thing to do. And if you look at San Clemente High School, like Shelley said, that it's a growing epidemic, heroin and mental health issues, and we need to address that. And shutting the doors to those people and kicking them to the curb like they're less than is not the answer. And so we in our community welcome all next door.
We welcome all next door.
We welcome all next door. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. That is our last speaker.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
Just for the benefit of those that are visiting or maybe hearing this first time, I wanted to ask our city attorney to just weigh in on what the reference is, because there's this idea of the repealing of these two ordinances that continue to be referenced. Could you just really briefly explain to the residents here and just the folks who are watching exactly what those ordinances are and what they function for the city?
Sure. What those ordinances do is regulate short-term rentals of all types throughout the city. They do not, contrary to some of the assumptions tonight, single out sober living facilities or group homes. They regulate all types of rentals of fewer than 30 days. And they have specific authority in them to look at a waiver of specific requirements if Americans with disabilities are implicated, or if the ordinances should become an impairment to their housing. So they don't single out recovery or recovery facilities at all. The other important part of the ordinances that are referenced is that they actually created new zones to facilitate specialty hospital and medical uses that can be used for recovery, and also group counseling facilities. And so we have, in fact, received last week, Ms. Gallardo-Daly and I received an inquiry from an investment team that actually wanted to look at locating facilities in these specialty hospital zones to provide just the type of services that have been referenced. So that's the bundle of ordinances that we have. One regulates short-term uses of all kinds in residential neighborhoods, and then the other two facilitate and encourage group counseling facilities and also specialty medical uses.
Thanks. I just wanted to make that clear.
Cover up.
Quickly, I also want to add that I've dealt with addiction and I've dealt with other issues in my family. I've dealt with suicide in my family by mental health. I understand all those things. The city has not closed its doors. In fact, it's opened its doors. Just we're asking for it to be within how the city has made sure that they're licensed, proper medical licensed facilities, and they're in a proper environment. The one thing that I do have a major objection to, as someone whose family was killed in Nazi concentration camps, is to somehow say that our city's attempt to regulate and control and have them in proper locations is the same as a concentration camp where I had family blood let. That infuriates and insults me, and I am very, very disgusted with the individual who said that.
Okay, let's go.
Could we have a motion to waive reading?
I move that we waive the reading in full of all resolutions and ordinances.
Motion by Doncheck, second by Mayor Pro Tem Brown. I'll never get that right. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0.
Closed session report, City Attorney.
Mayor and Council, there was no reportable action taken in closed session.
All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion unless council, staff, or the public requests removal of an item for separate discussion and action. Staff has requested the removal of item 6E for discussion, and the public has requested the removal of 6D.
Okay. Do you have any? Tim? Lori? Anyone want to make a motion?
Move
the balance?
Second.
Motion by Ham, second by Doncheck. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0.
So the nets at Jim Johnson Memorial Park went up. It didn't look that bad. Yep.
I thought D was first. No.
Okay, so the public pulled 6D.
Yeah, so as I was saying, those nets looked fine. I mean, they look pretty good. The ones on Hermosa look pretty good as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they're real similar. Yeah, I think it's going to work out. Yeah.
So we have a card, Mimi Johnson.
Sorry. I'm very sorry. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. I've written all this down because I'm afraid I'll be so emotional that I won't be able to say the things I want to say. But my name is Mimi Johnson. I'm a resident of Irvine, and I've been waiting for this moment for a very, very, very long time. And to see his name on the park, and the sign of the park was totally unreal, surreal for me. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't think I'll do this, but I'm very, very, very honored to be here tonight to thank you and to thank each and every one of you and each and every one of the staff of the city and all the people of the past council and of past administration that have worked and have made this park come into existence. Many of these city people and city officials have moved on or have retired, but I know that they put a lot of work into making this park happen, and I just want to thank all of them today. This is my only chance to do that. I'm particularly very thankful for the Parks and Recreations Department of the city, but I know that they've worked very hard in planning this, particularly Erin Donnelly and Peggy Locayo. They've been great people to work with. They're very talented ladies, and Peggy has been very gracious and wonderful in making this happen and coordinating and planning this. And Erin had put so many beautiful details into the park. I got a chance to see it the other day. It was spectacular. It was just very beautiful with so many different details about the tiles, the water fountains, you know, the playgrounds. I'm so proud to see this work, and I'm so very proud and honored to have this park named after him. I was a little sad to find out Erin is leaving, but you know, she's a great lady, and she's done a lot for the park, and I'm grateful for that. I would like to thank the people, Taylor Woodrow also, who had helped build the city for the park. In fact, all of the parks at the summit are very pretty. I think I'm so glad that the people in San Clemente, all the residents, will get to enjoy these beautiful amenities. I'm so glad that the park has like a concession space also, and I was thinking maybe the city can use it for to sell stuff and maybe generate some revenues to help maintain the park in the future. That's what I'm thinking about. But I'm very appreciative and thankful of everything that you've done, and all the wonderful staff. I can't say enough. And this park is a great way to honor a man who was so humble. He was so humble that he would never have thought that someone would put his name on anything, never mind a park, a sports park. And you know what? He loved this place, and it's a great way to honor, for me, to honor his legacy and remember all the wonderful things that and the positive impacts that he left here in San Clemente. In fact, he loved San Clemente. He loved it so much. You know what he used to call this place? It's God's country. Because he said, the place is so special. It is so wonderful. It's so almost perfect, like a paradise, that if God were to have a house, he would have had it here in San Clemente. That's I'm very happy to express my immense gratitude to you, to all of you tonight, and all the people who preceded you. So thank you very much. I'm so sorry I broke down in front of you. I didn't mean to do that, but thank you. Good night.
I'll move the item. Oh, want to do this?
Mimi, I want to let you know, I knew Jim. I worked with him way back on all this when I was Parks and Rec Commission, and I felt he was a friend, and he was an icon for our city, and I am so glad that we're able to have his name on that park, because that is him, and I will always remember that.
Do you want to make a motion? Okay, motion by Ham. Is there a second? Second by Swartz. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Item E.
Good evening, Mayor Mord, members of the council. Tom Vonnegut, Deputy Public Works Director. I asked this item to be pulled, just a mea culpa. I signed the report, but I goofed. I forgot two important recommendations that I would like your council to consider and add to the list of two that are already there. And should I read those, Joanne? Or what I would like your consideration, in addition to the two recommendations, this is to accept the improvements in San Luis Rey Park. And as we typically do with these contracts, we also ask you to approve release of the performance and payment bonds and so forth. And we forgot those recommendations, so I would like to read those to you and ask that you approve them as well. And so recommendation 3 would state, authorize the city clerk to release the payment bond 35 days from recordation of the notice of completion and upon verification with the engineering division that no liens have been levied against the contractor NR Development, Inc. And recommendation 4, authorize the city clerk to release the performance bond upon receipt of a warranty bond in the amount of 25% of the construction cost. And with that, I'll recommend your approval of all 4 recommendations.
So move.
Motion by Donchek, second by Ham. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
The public hearing process includes a staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant, not to exceed 10 minutes, and public testimony not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker. Following closure of the public hearing, the City Council will respond to questions raised during the hearing, discuss the issues, and act upon the matter by motion. This evening's public hearing is to consider all objections or protests to the proposed abatement of weeds, rubbish, refuse, and dirt upon streets, sidewalks, parkways, and private property.
Good evening, Mayor Ward. Good evening, council members. Adam Atamian, Code Compliance Manager. Tonight I'm presenting a resolution to order the Community Development Director to abate the nuisances which we identified in March as part of the weed abatement program for 2017. Additionally, at this time, we are holding a public hearing to hear all objections to the program. The properties listed on the vacant lot list in March have been notified of this. We've also put a notice in the newspaper, and so at this time we would hear any objections. And if none, we would request that you adopt a resolution ordering the abatement of the nuisance. That concludes my presentation.
Do we have any cards? Oh.
No.
I don't think we have cards. I do have a question, real quick question. Do we have any priority on what lots go first? Say if something's in the public realm on Del Mar, would we hit that first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a number of properties that are either problems due to the amount of weeds they get, or there's a sensitive issue. They need to be dealt with first because of fire issues, for example. We know which ones those are, and we go after those first.
Okay, that's great. That's all I had.
Okay.
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone that wants to come and speak on this weed abatement? Nope, seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing.
I move that we adopt Resolution 17-10 entitled A Resolution of the City Council of the City of San Clemente, California, ordering the Director of Community Development to abate the nuisances by having weeds, rubbish, refuse, and dirt removed from vacant properties and unoccupied developed properties within the city.
Second.
Motion by Donchek, second by Swartz. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0.
Next is a report from the Assistant City Manager concerning the possibility of taking a city position on nuclear energy interim storage.
Good evening, Council. My name is Eric Sund, Assistant City Manager. This is a continuation from our last council meeting that was under council comments. Staff was directed to come back with a brief agenda report and include the letter as well as the Coastal Commission report as it relates to the CDP permit that was approved in 2015. With that, I'm going to conclude my presentation and seek council direction as it relates to the letter that was drafted as part of support at the previous council meeting.
Does anyone have any questions? You want to hear from the public first?
Following the Assistant City Manager's comments, Mayor Pro Tem Brown and I were asked by our colleagues to take a stab at a letter that would reflect the California Coastal Commission's report dated, let me see what the date of that report is, October 5th, 2015. And so we, in fact, did meet, and in addition to looking at that, we also asked the city clerk for prior either resolutions or statements that had been made in support of nuclear energy practices with an eye toward community safety going back in the last few years. So what you have in front of you is a revised letter, and it's fairly self-explanatory, and the idea, we expanded, per the direction of some of the speakers last time, we expanded the copy list to include the Department of Energy and Camp Pendleton. We've also included the resolutions from 2013, 2014, and 2016 about the city's position on permanent repositories, priority transfer, and interim consolidated Storage Act. So at this point, we did what you asked us to do. There's 5 key points to the letter. It's a stronger letter than the draft from 2 weeks ago, and that's what I'd like to say. Tim, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I thought it was very useful, sitting down and understanding where we wanted to go here. I think in previous pronouncements, the council's always been unanimous in our desire to have the waste removed as soon as possible. And so I feel like this letter is towards that end, and not only the options, but the places that get us there. I think we probably should hear from the public about it, but one of the things that has come up is the question, a lot of people are questioning, what does consent mean, or a consent-based community? And so we'll have to hear from the public that, but we want to consider modifying or removing that component just for. So we may want to look at either modifying it for clarity or removing it just so that it's not crossing what we're looking to do, because I think when we say consent-based, we have an idea of what it is based on the federal government and how they've defined it, but I don't know if that's translating well as to what its purpose is there for. So just kind of put that out there, and we'll probably hear from the public a little bit about it, and we then can address it from there.
And then for those of you that don't have access to the letter, the 5 key points are that our view, first, safety is the overarching point, and we're asking for the Coastal Commission to revisit its decision to issue a spent nuclear fuel storage permit to Southern California Edison. And the 5 things we're asking them to do are, this is the order they appear in the letter, given the interim Storage Act, we now are in the position in the city as being an involuntary host community, and the Blue Ribbon Commission in 2012 made it clear that communities that host nuclear waste should choose to do that, and so we're asking for some attention to that point. We are asking, and this was per the public last time, we're asking for an accelerated development of an aging management plan, and what that accomplishes is it addresses key questions regarding fuel monitoring and cask repair, and our specific ask is that that be completed prior to demolition of the spent fuel pool. Our third issue is that we continue to be concerned about the proximity to the ocean of this particular storage program, and so we remain passionately committed to the expedited removal of the waste away from our shoreline and community, and ask the CCC to press SCE and the federal government on that point. Number 4 is that we continue to support federal efforts on permanent repositories. And then finally, number 5 is that consistent with Diablo Canyon, the other nuclear generating station in the state of California, we ask that SCE continue to fund all necessary emergency services for our community through the decommissioning and storage process. In other words, make that a state best practice rather than just exclusive to Diablo Canyon. And then we are copying our legislators, our colleagues in nearby cities all the way through the California and the federal government.
Can I ask a quick question? Why are we not sending this to the court also in San Diego, or to the mediator? Was that thought of?
Yeah, if you want to include the courts, I think that's a great idea. I think one of the ways that we viewed this letter is what we're really trying to do is convey, I think the community sentiment, which is it's not appropriate for a storage waste. The plant is decommissioned, and we want to remove it as soon as possible, and we want the Coastal Commission to help us in that regard. And so this is what the letter's really designed to do, is to ask for that, and if it goes to the court, then great. If there's anyone else we miss, then I think we ought to have discretion to staff to include it and send it later. This is the 4th of, there's 3 previous ordinances, and that's part of the attachment that we've done, or letters about storage, about waste removal, about other things that we've sent out in support of this, and so this is a little bit of a different tone, and it's also a different tack, and one that I support if it gets results. That's really what matters most.
Go ahead.
And I assume we go ahead and publish this letter, so all
It'll be made
parties that
public.
would be involved in the public would know it.
Yeah.
Well, and there are other cities that are watching this letter and would be quick to embrace it if, we end up with something that everybody's pleased with tonight.
All right, I'm going to open the public hearing. First speaker is Ryan Klustra, Steve Hops, followed by Cheryl Heineke. And everyone has 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Ryan G. Klostra. I am a San Clemente resident, surfer, and junior high principal at Capistrano Valley Christian Schools in San Juan. Thank you for your position thus far. I am fervently opposed to the position which would allow nuclear waste storage at the Songs facility, so close to our beloved beach. I trust that you all feel the same way and will vote accordingly to create a position statement against this waste facility. But I implore you to go further. Please use language that is both resolute and inspirational. Let your language against this facility be a template for others to use to create a greater awareness of the dangers that are both clear and present. You have the power to guide the future of this discussion. As the great writer Wendell Berry wrote, "The world is not given by his fathers, but borrowed from his children, who has undertaken to cherish it and to do it no damage, not because he is duty-bound, but because he loves the world and loves his children." I urge you to show that you not only do your duty for the people of San Clemente, but also that you love the world and you love your children by opposing this storage facility. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Steve Hops, and I'm a San Clemente resident, fortunate enough to have been a San Clemente resident most of my life. I'm also old enough and fortunate enough to been on that beach before there was a power station down there and watched them tear down that cliff and put that power station in and build a pier and everything else. And, well, maybe if this council was here at the time, they wouldn't have allowed that. We wouldn't be here. So thanks to the efforts of some good activists, it's getting torn down. Yes, Mr. Brown, I heard you out in the parking lot. The waste is there, and so what do you do about it now? Everybody wants it out of here. The question is whether putting it in the dry cast system is going to take all the pressure out of the balloon, and then it sits there for however long.
That is a great question.
You know, I mean, so how long does it sit there until we get up the energy to go at the federal government again? Because that's, to my best of understanding, is where the answer lies, with the Department of Energy. Department of Energy has got to contract with some kind of private companies to get it stored in New Mexico or Texas or someplace. And so it's not enough just to say, hey, get it out of here. We got to figure out where to take it. So it sounds like you're somewhat on the right track, but there needs to be more energy about the issue. And I would implore you to, get behind the energy to maybe, I don't know, Darrell Issa, I read the bill, and that sounds like it's the right direction. I called his office, and the kid that answers didn't seem to know much about it, didn't seem to have a whole lot of hope for it. So we need to make some noise. Thank you very much.
Next, thank you. Next speaker is Cheryl Heineke, followed by Ruth Lopez, followed by John Baldwin.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Heineke, and I'm a relatively new resident of San Clemente, although I was born in Orange County 70 years ago, and I've lived in South Orange County now for the last 5 years, and I just recently moved to San Clemente. And I believed that originally I believed that the cask system was a good one, but after doing some research, I've discovered that it's crazy. It is, first of all, it's going to be in cement, which everybody knows if it gets a little bit of heat, it cracks. The second thing is that it's being put right next to the ocean, which, once again, everybody knows that the that salt air is extremely caustic, and it's just crazy. The only letter that we should be sending to the Coastal Commission is a letter that says it is unacceptable for this to be next to the ocean, and it should be moved inland, not on the Englewood-Newport Fault, and it should be moved off of this tectonic plate and moved into like Arizona, where it's going to be dry, whether they're better able to manage it. Anyway, I just encourage the city council to do whatever it takes, including lawsuits, any number of lawsuits, to protect us. It is your job to protect us and our ocean. Thank you.
I know everybody loves the speeches, but can we not clap after them and let people talk?
We'll have one big round of
time.
applause at the end, but we
At
can
the
move
end.
more quickly and keep the information
Right.
coming. It's hard for us to process.
When you're interrupting it.
Yeah.
So.
Ruth?
Yes.
I'm Ruth Musser Lopez. I'm not from San Clemente, but first of all, I'm old enough. I was around when they told us that nuclear energy has no waste. So I know it's none of your fault that it's here, but it was put here, and you have made money off of it all this time, but now when it's time to decommission it because it is unsafe, you don't want it. That's point one. But are you asking to put it in San Bernardino County? Somebody sent me a letter. It said Cadiz. It said you wanted to put it out in Cadiz, the same place where Orange County is trying to extract our underground aquifer, our desert aquifer, and draft it down.
That wasn't a position by this council. It was a proposed location by a different group.
That group needs to get educated because please do not take their recommendation to put it there, because we had 20,000 registered voter signatures against dumping any nuclear waste in our county. We have, our desert, the water's very precious there. And it actually moves down to the river and provides you with your water through the All-American Canal. And it comes through the California Canal too. But you do not want to put it over the desert, because number one, if the water gets drafted down, which somebody's proposing to do that, the Cadiz Water, Scott Slater, he's been down here promoting that. They downdraft that, that's also going to suck out nuclear. So you do not want to. And I'm just, thank you for being aware of that. I appreciate your ear, and bless you, and I hope you get it, taken care of. I do want to tell you that there was an elderly lady that was around when we were fighting the Ward Valley nuclear dump. Her name was Leon Hayes. She was from La Jolla down here. And she said, just let them pour concrete over that San Onofre and make it a huge monument to the stupidity of man. And I say, put on top, Mr. Burns.
Yeah. Thank you. Speaker will be Josh Baldwin, followed by Lori Hedrick, followed by Gary Hedrick. Last speaker is Emily Corbett.
All right. Hello, my name is Josh Baldwin. I'm a teacher at St. Margaret's Episcopal School, and I live in San Clemente. I would say I'm an avid surfer, but I see myself on camera, then think otherwise. But that being said, I love this area. I love the town. It's a beautiful place, and someone did earlier reference this as God's country, and I fully, that resonates within my heart. That being said, when water meets a rock, when a simple droplet of water meets a rock, water loses every time. Every single time a droplet of water will lose. But over time, enough water, and with enough persistence, water can carve out canyons and valleys. And over time, rock loses, and water wins because of its persistence. time favors the water. Nuclear energy is the energy that powers stars. Like the sun is collapsing under its own mass right now as we speak, but at the same time is being blown apart because of all the nuclear reactions that are taking place within its center. So right now, our sun is in this equilibrium of being blown apart, but at the same time being pulled back in on itself. But nuclear energy, doing what it does, is persistent. And eventually, in a long time scale, nuclear energy will win and the sun will be blown to pieces. In the same way, rock's going to lose its battle against containing this nuclear energy. We've seen how dynamic these coastlines are. Even just this winter, the Sano parking lot is totally thrashed. And that's just after one El Nino event. It's not even an El Nino event. It was just a good winter of waves. And so just the idea of planting this this energy that takes place on the cosmic scale, just yards away from a very dynamic coastline, needs to be revisited, because on a long enough time scale, rock always loses, and nuclear energy is persistent and has no will, so we can't beat it. So I suggest that we look for other alternatives and other options. Thanks.
I have Josh Baldwin. Is he still here?
That's me.
Oh, I'm sorry. So sorry.
All right, sorry.
Lori Hedrick, it is you, and Gary, and then Emily Corbett.
Good evening, Council. Lori Hedrick, San Clemente Green. Tonight, we, the people of the community, are asking the City Council to request that the California Coastal Commission revoke the permit allowing Southern California Edison to bury over 3.5 million pounds of highly radioactive waste on our shoreline. It makes absolutely no sense to put the most toxic substance known to man in a marine environment in canisters a mere 5/8 inch thick, 100 feet from the water's edge, where we are experiencing extensive erosion and sea level rise, inches above the water table, in a tsunami earthquake zone, in the midst of over 8.5 million people. Of all the possible solutions, this has to be the worst place you could come up with. Edison needs to reevaluate this plan and provide a much better option. Just getting it further away from the beach in better canisters that can be monitored, repaired, and transported would be a start. We need to have it stored safely and ready to be transported to a more permanent location as soon as it's available. I also feel that Councilman Tim Brown should no longer be our representative on the Community Engagement Panel. He, along with 2 other CEP members, signed a letter to the Coastal Commission essentially giving his endorsement of the proposed plan to bury waste on our beach. This is not looking out for the health and safety of the people or the environment. As an elected official representing all of us, this should be his primary goal. I would like to request that Councilman Brown resign from the CEP, and I propose that Councilwoman Donchek take his place. She has always been a champion for the citizens of the community with regard to nuclear issues, and I feel she would be a powerful voice for the residents of San Clemente. Please act now in the interest of your constituents and request that the California Coastal Commission revoke the permit and that Edison stop this ludicrous plan. Thank you.
Please, let's not do that so we can get through it. We're not going to get through all the speakers if you keep doing that. Okay? Shh. Gary Hedrick is the next speaker, followed by Emily Corbett. Will you please come up? Thank you.
So, see, I guess I'm on now. I want to echo Lori's comments about Tim Brown. I just feel like so often I've been at this podium rejected and aggressively attacked by you for, acting as if we have no right to be here. If we have, you always wanted it to be left to the experts about the shutdown. And I'm really sorry that you're representing us on the CEP. I think that's really unfortunate, and I think we could do better with someone that will listen and be more proactive and be
on the precautionary side of things. I'm not sure where you're coming from, but it feels like we're on opposite sides, and all I'm trying to do is protect our community. So that's one thing I want to say. And unfortunately, the slides I sent to I thought they would be here available for us, but today I discovered that in Google Earth you can actually go back in time and take snapshots of the power plant. And what I found is if you did an outline around where Unit 1 is and you superimpose that on where they're putting the new ISFC pad, it's like perfect alignment. And I went back and I did a little more research. In 2006, I found an article written about tritium leaks and contamination in the soil. And the fact that everywhere I go and everyone I talk to and show this plan to put this nuclear waste where they want it, just above the water, 100 feet from the shore, everyone says that's ludicrous. And the only thing I can see is there's some potential that they're trying to bury this nuclear waste on top of contaminated soil so they don't have to deal with it later. And that may be good for their purposes, but it really is not bode well for our future if they stick these canisters in the ground and leave them for us to deal with after they start cracking. It's really short-term, short-sighted. It's really important that we take actions now, and instead of talking about, this kind of watered down version of a letter, the previous letter was much better. I think we should simplify it, not get all complicated in these other issues, and just say, revoke the permit, because that'll send a message to the court, it'll send a message to the negotiators, and it'll send another message to the surrounding cities where you're going to send this letter. If you're not going to say revoke the permit, I think you're going to do us a disservice.
Hi, thank you for letting us speak today. I'm Emily Corbett. I don't know which mic to speak into. I live in Fullerton, California. I've been driving many years down to San Onofre, an hour each way. There's a sign down there, if you've ever been, that kind of explains why there's so many people here today. I'm shaking. Okay. You are visiting a special beach that has remained unchanged since it's been discovered in the early 1900s. The name San Onofre first appeared on the 1836 Santa Margarita land grant documents. It continues to go on and on. Decades and decades of different generations are experiencing this place. Which is why I'm here today. I believe, honestly, in my heart, among everyone else here, that this is one of the most important environmental and safety issues Southern California will face in our lifetime. I know you know that. That's why it's up for discussion. A Pacific Institute report by the Scripps Institute of Technology, the U.S. Geological Service, former policy advisor of the U.S. Department of Energy, City of Del Mar, San Diego County Supervisor, among many others, oppose it. FEMA denies assistance. It is a terrorist target. It is feet away, as you know, from the last open space along the Southern California coastline. Your decision on this matter is far, far more precious than you will ever realize. And I just want to thank you again for your time, and I just beg of you to please, please revoke this permit for me and my future generations and their future generations and yours. And just remember that sign that I described. It speaks for me and everyone else here. Thank you.
I have asked you several times to please not clap. You are actually interrupting what we're trying to listen to. We need the continuity of what people are, no. We need that, excuse me. We are respectful to you. Please do, be that back to us. We need to listen to these speakers, and we're trying to take in what they say, and when you do that, you interrupt what we're thinking. So please, have some respect for the process. The next speaker is Ray Lutz, followed by Judy Jones, followed by Shannon Williams. After that will be Ian Cairns, Roger Johnson, and Kevin Higgins. Please come up to the podium so you can speak right after each other. Mr. Lutz? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, City Council. Ray Lutz with Citizens Oversight. I do have a letter that I did email to you, but just in case you didn't get it, I'll give you the hard copy here and let you take a look.
We all have it.
You have it, okay, good. So essentially, I thank you for getting that to you. Citizens Oversight, as you may know, has sued the Coastal Commission over this sort of sneaky process that they used. I noticed that the San Clemente City had no comments in this permitting process. You had no objections to it. You had no one at the meeting. I think it's a violation of your duty to the public not to be present at an extremely important permitting process at the Coastal Commission. So you're basically in violation of your duty to the public on that. So I'm requesting that you make up for it now by doing the right thing by objecting to this waste dump only 100 feet from the ocean. Now, I'm an engineer background. I reviewed your letter, and we oppose it unless you amend it. And basically throw everything out except for the statement that you say, after learning of the proximity of this location to the ocean, we cannot support this permit and we ask you that it be revoked. And I ask you to actually make a motion and vote on that today so we know where everybody here stands on whether you like this nuclear waste dump or you want it revoked. It's not up to you to decide the better place or how they should do it. The fact is that this is insane to put this nuclear waste only 100 feet from the ocean. It never should have happened. The Coastal Commission doesn't even allow roses to be planted in the coastal zone. No, there's no special circumstances or on whether you can have them with inspection on the thorns being small enough. Not at all. And yet they allow a nuclear waste dump only 100 feet from the ocean. It can't even happen. It's insane. Now, I object to the shortness of time here. Please put that in the record. I would like you to strongly oppose the nuclear waste facility on the beach, and your action today will be moving into our settlement negotiations with Southern California Edison. So this is not just a worthless play, because guess what? No matter what you say to the Coastal Commission, they're not going to revoke the permit. They can't. It's against the law. They've already approved it. But your letter today, or whenever you approve it, will go into our settlement process. So I urge you, please come out strong and oppose the nuclear waste dump on the beach. Thank you.
Judy Jones, followed by Shannon Williams, followed by Ian Cairns.
Okay, first, I'm Judy Jones from San Clemente, and I have actually tell the Coastal Commission revoked the nuclear waste storage permit from Donna Gilmore. I think that's enough copies. I have a few more if you need. And passing that on, I'm speaking to this letter in terms of my assumption is it's a letter to the Coastal Commission. It's a request to them, and its safety is a major concern of our city, our council, and our community. So number one item on the letter seems to have been a little confusing here, and I think that really it should be restated as to why we are asking this, because we feel that we are being treated like a consenting community, and we want to have our voice. So because it's being, by default, located here, we should have a voice. And so that's why we are saying this, not that we want to be a consent-based community. Number two is an item which really should be included with some stronger wording. The Coastal Commission's special conditions must be met now, not deferred for 20 years. This would include monitoring for cracks, being able to repair the cracks, being able to transport, having backup plans for overheating, including spent fuel, as long as the spent fuel is at songs. Number three in the letter, which is due to the proximity, This should be removing from the coastline is what we all want, and based on our default-based consent status, we should be participating in options. So that should be there, except that we should say that as the Southern California Edison and DOE and NRC should be doing their job, and that's not something that the Coastal Commission can impact, so I would leave that part off. In number 4, I think this is just too political. You want this to act as a nonpartisan statement. I'm not sure that everyone in this group would agree that it should go to Yucca Mountain or that it should go to New Mexico or any of these places, and there'd be all kinds of different opinions in our community. So make this straightforward that we can all agree on. And number 5 is a very important aspect of our community safety. And we want monitoring of our air and our water, and we want funding for our city's emergency planning. So we do, of course, want the NRC and the DOE to do their jobs, but items number 2, 3, and 5 on this letter are 3 points that we can ask of the California Coastal Commission. Thank you.
Shannon Williams, followed by Ian Cairns.
Hi, it's actually Sharon Williams. That's
Sorry,
okay.
I
My
looked at
writing
it
was
probably
not
3
clear.
times.
I am a San Clemente resident. I actually grew up here. I went to Shorecliff, San Clemente High School, class of '94. And I've never been in these chambers before, but I was so inspired to come here tonight and actually sit my son outside with my phone so I could actually do this, because this is a big deal. Every single person that I've talked to about this issue over the last, I don't know, month or so, every single resident, from my mother, who's lived here forever, who owns a boarding care home, who's part of the Seroptimus Club, who knows everybody. We can't go to Costco without my mom talking to somebody. I talked to her about it. We talked to all of our friends about it. Everybody is like, what is going on? Why would our representatives allow this to happen? And I wanted to relay that to you guys because you guys do represent us. I mean, look at this room. People are applauding about wanting to have this permit revoked. And I really hope that you guys are hearing this, and I wanted to echo something that Mr. Letts mentioned because it struck me. He wanted to know where you all stand on this, and he wanted to move for a vote, and I am actually very curious as well. I want to know what each one of you know about this and where you stand on it and what you're going to do. Really, I mean, I legitimately want to know this. I don't know how to go about finding out that information, but maybe it is a vote. I know it's complicated. I know that, from what I also have read, it sounds like we need some federal intervention. We might need some federal funding. We have to deal with policy of where waste can be stored. And I also want to encourage you to enlist that help. I mean, are you guys encouraging Darrell Issa to get involved? Are you talking to our senators? Has Kamala Harris come down and visited? Have you guys invited her to do so? I guess you can't answer me, I get that, but I want to encourage that. And again, hi, I know, I see you. We're watching you guys, very much, and we're all talking about it. So I hope that you guys are going to do what's best and revoke that permit. Thank you.
Mr. Cairns? Mr. Cairns, please come up to the mic, followed by Roger Johnson, followed by Kevin Higgins, followed by Mary Fisher.
Good evening. I was here a number of weeks ago. The process, I thought someone was taking care of this. I thought Surfrider Foundation had it all dialed. But when I found out no one was doing anything, I kind of got uptight because I live in Laguna Beach. I have 15-year-old boys, and we go to the beach. We're surfers, we recreate on the beach, we have property in Laguna Beach, and I was really excited that the council here was going to be listening to the citizens of San Clemente, and I just wanted to add my voice. Since I was here, we've motivated the World Surf League to get on board and start publicizing this issue. We've got the Surfline, their big megaphone, their people, Beach Grid is here writing a story. We'll get Stab Magazine. Every piece of the news media in surfing will get behind this, and we will motivate every surfer in Southern California to stand up against having nuclear waste at San Onofre that will, when we have a tsunami and an earthquake, it will get exposed and we will be suffering from nuclear fallout. This is the environmental issue of our time, and I'm here and I'm going to provide my voice, and I'm going to motivate all of my friends in the surf world to stand up and stop this, because it will wipe out Southern California from Point Conception to San Diego, and we are all toast. So no nukes at Sano. Thank you.
Mr. Higgins, will you step up to the microphone behind Mr. Johnson, and Mary Fisher also? No, Mr. Johnson, you're up. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get them behind you.
Good evening, Roger Johnson, San Clemente. In the last 2 days, I sent 2 messages to you. I don't know if they were circulated. One was a letter to the San Clemente Times where I tried to illustrate the magnitude of the problem. I think this is by far the most serious problem that's ever been before the city, and that may determine the future of the city. What I pointed out in my letter was that the pit of the Hiroshima bomb was a little ball of uranium about the size of a grapefruit, destroyed the entire city. What we're doing here is 2,000 tons, almost 2,000 tons of uranium and plutonium. Now, it's not highly enriched uranium, but nevertheless, the radiation potential is just astronomical. It's not just San Clemente, it's not just the beach, it's all of Southern California. The second was about the letter. I think it's important I think it's wonderful that you're doing a letter, but it should be a forceful letter. And it should be clear and focused, and it's not. So I rewrote the letter, and you can throw it away if you want. But I think there's 2 important things. I think you want to emphasize consent-based siting. The President's Blue Ribbon Commission recommended that, and I think we should follow that. And we do not have any consent to put this stuff in our backyard. And we don't want it anywhere else either, which is why you should leave everything about Yucca Mountain out of this proposal. Don't even mention it. The second thing is you want to revoke the permit. That's another important thing. And then I think all of the other things about the safety, the casks. I think the problem of getting the waste out of here has to do with cooling, and so we need smaller casks with fewer rods, and that's the way it'll cool faster, it can be moved faster. We want safer casks. So we really need to deal with the safety issues, including the emergency issues. Edison is backing away from all emergency preparedness. The city and the county is in no way prepared to deal with radioactive emergencies. How many tens of thousands of hazmat suits do we have? One-use hazmat suits do we have ready to go when the radiation starts falling? So I hope you'll do you want more copies or not? Do you want a written copy? You have it. Well, I'll give you a bunch, sure. I think you saw it already. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, can I ask you a question real quick? Could you just talk a little bit more about your disagreement with the city stating that we are an involuntary host? And no, he said the city does not agree to be an involuntary host.
Oh, we have not agreed to be a voluntary host. No, we are opposed. We're very firmly, strongly opposed. Did I say it wrong?
So no, do you have an issue with the city trying to say that we are involuntary and getting paid to have the waste here while it is here? Are you addressing that at all in your letter?
Yeah, I think you should strike that whole sentence.
And tell me why.
It's confusing and it's muddled. What I wrote is that the city does not agree to be an involuntary host for nuclear waste for decades or possibly forever. So I mean, I think we both agree. But I would.
Well, we need to sharpen that
instead of affirming
point.
the negative, I think you should state it more firmly, more positively. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Higgins?
Hi.
Thank you.
Okay. My name's Kevin Higgins, and I've talked to you guys before. I'm all the way from Temecula.
What happened was my daughter was speaking, but she's not going to speak tonight. But anyway, my question is that if you have the nuclear waste that's right here along California, how far does that perimeter go? If there is a nuclear accident, does it go all the way up to LA, all the way down to San Diego? Is there any emergency plan that's in place if that falls out? Is there anything at San Onofre that indicates how much radiation is released if there is a nuclear accident? Is there any warning signs in regards to if there is an accident, how much time do people have to get out? That's the good one, because when traffic jam on the 5 freeway, try to get people out when there's a nuclear accident. You're not going to. There was an accident that took place, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, right by San Onofre. And I think it took me 2.5 hours to get from Los Angeles down to Oceanside. So if there's an accident and something happens, you have 8.5 million people to evacuate, how are you going to do it? You can't, and you can't. So what will happen is that you'll have an accident and people say, God, how did that happen? Jesus, 8.5 million people. I don't even know the real estate value in regards to how much money would be lost. I think I paid Southern California Edison close to about $100,000, in bills. So what happens is if we're citizens and we're paying the bills and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, how can they possibly store that down there? It makes no sense, because think of all the risk. If you have all those risks involved and you're still going to store it down there, I mean, it's crazy. There's got to be something else there to where people would want this done. Like, oh, it's no problem. We got, 40,000 tons of nuclear waste? Let's just store it down in San Onofre. Who cares, It just doesn't make sense. It's not only San Clemente. I mean, Temecula's, they're downwind 22 miles, You got, close to almost 280,000 people down there. Downwind directly. The wind blows, radiation goes there. You're affecting so many people by your decisions that I wouldn't want the responsibility of you guys because I think the risk for what could happen, there's no indication as to how devastating it could be. And the last thing I'm going to say is that on the situation in Fukushima, there was a PBS special, and this engineer who designed Fukushima said, I, in a billion years, couldn't picture something happening like this. I could not understand how this could happen. We never anticipated an 8.0 earthquake. We never anticipated a tsunami that big, and we never knew, we knew this couldn't happen. If we did, we would not have done it. So now you've got Fukushima, which you don't even know what's going on. So that's an indication of what's going to happen here if there's a nuclear accident.
Hi, can you hear me okay? The other one, oh, thanks. Can you hear me okay now? Hi, my name's Mary Fisher. Before I start, I just want to say thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I'm here because I love to surf. I love the ocean. Surfing, the ocean's in my blood. My last name is Fisher. It goes back way back when, I don't know, but when I'm in the ocean, I'm home. And it's not just my home, it's home to so many creatures and so many animals and just life itself. I have some questions for you guys I found out you can't answer, but maybe you can just give me a head nod or a hand raise. Do any of you ever go in the ocean? Have you ever been in the ocean? Do you surf? Do you boogie board? Do you like sushi? Do you like fish? Walks on the beach, anything like that? Do you have kids? Something to think about. I have a quote, one of my favorite quotes I just want to share with you. It's by Chief Seattle. He says, "Humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect." So I ask you to consider that quote, those words, when you make your decision. And please don't be short-sighted. Thank you.
Michelle Brooks, followed by Matt Sawyer. Matt, can you come up?
Ms. Fisher, we have two spongers on the council, Steve and Tim, both bodyboard, so.
Hi, my name is Michelle Brooks. I've actually been here before regarding
sound wall and sober living home. But to me, this is just exponentially greater in what we can't even fathom the consequences. I had a long conversation with my dad today, who's a physicist. So that's the only reason I came to speak. He just wanted to bring up Hanford, and he wanted to bring up the Superfund. He said that there is a government Superfund that funds this exact kind of thing ever since what happened in Hanford. So look it up. I spent some time reading. My husband's from San Clemente. We're longtime residents. We're raising our kids here, and I am kind of an activist, but this is something that is out of all of our pay grades, unless we're all physicists. And I don't know if any of you are, I don't know, but I pray that somebody on this council is that can advise us on what really needs to be done. My husband is suffering serious health concerns right now, and to me, it's from the fallout of what happened in Japan and the fish that we're consuming. I no longer eat fish, and we have to be aware of those things. People call it crazy years ago, but look at us, right? And until we can figure out where all those diseases come from, I think we really need to think into the future and think of the long-term effects of this. And there is a solution, and there is a way to safely transport this out into the desert where it doesn't affect. Or there's a solution to transport it away from many people where it's not going to affect our chain of food supply, and also where we can monitor if it does have a leak. Because 16 years isn't very long in monitoring radiation. It will have a leak, and we need to be able to detect it. I haven't personally received my radiation pill since you guys sent it out back in, 2009, 2010. I don't know if anyone here still has theirs, right? So we're not prepared for this, obviously. So I pray that we have some guidance with some physicists. Thank you for your time.
Matt Sawyer.
So I drove up here from Carlsbad, which isn't that far away, but if you stop and think about it, it affects everyone in a huge radius, and we have a massive population here in Southern California. A half-life of a nuclear isotope is 24,000 years. There's no easy solution to this. We've seen what's happened elsewhere in the world, and this is an incredibly important issue, and I ask that the permit gets revoked for this. Thank you, guys.
Is it on this side? This is our last card. Brett, and I'm not sure if your last name is it.
Danson.
Danson.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here and listening to everybody. I just wanted to talk about political will today. And so in order for things to happen in the government, and I work with the government, I work with the federal government, political will is a big thing. When they decide to move, they're going to move and they're going to make things happen. I think that at the local government level, we should be doing the same thing. We should decide that this is something that we don't want in our community, and that we should move forward and make a stand and bring other people with us and build our political will so that the federal government decides to move, because that's what it's going to take to move this. Thank you.
Close the public hearing. I'm sorry, it's not a public hearing. Do you want to start?
I was going to, let me throw one suggestion.
Yeah.
I know Tim's got a lot more.
Go ahead.
I just want to throw this out because I wrote this, I addressed something in our first, number one, and I thought I'd throw that out, then let's see where else it goes. But we're in the second paragraph of number one, where it says, "To this end, we call on CCC to affirm." What I want to redo it is, affirm San Clemente as a consent-based community, and then at the end of the sentence, I want to say, and we stipulate that we do not consent to the storage. So what I want to do is acknowledge that we should be a consent city, and we don't give the consent.
Tim, before you jump on that, can I just address a point? So one of the things that Lori brought up and then adjunctly I brought up to it was, my preference still is that we asked to have past consent-based status, being that we were an consenting community for the last 50, 60 years, whatever it's been, since the 60s. And so I don't know that moving forward we want to continue to be a consent-based community. I think a lot of people here have some concern with that. But if we can get the benefits of the past unconsenting basis that we've had over the last 65 years, whatever it's been, I think that's a better position to take. So that way moving forward, we're not saying that we consent to the continued storage, but we definitely want to reap the benefits of having been a de facto consent-based storage community over the past years. So.
And I'd like to...
You know what? We really need to concentrate on this, and you're not helping us, so.
The other point that was brought up, I think, by Judy Jones, this idea of we want a voice, which the Blue Ribbon Commission is all about local control, local decision-making. It's all about real benefits. It's all about economic benefits. And this idea that we need a voice going forward needs to be built into this. I also do like Roger Johnson's first paragraph quite a bit for point 1 as an option. Leave our first paragraph and then go with his as a second paragraph. Oh, all right. So point 1 might look like this. Due to the absence of significant progress by the federal government in approving temporary and permanent federal fuel storage alternatives for the waste at Songs, San Clemente will be forced to be an involuntary host community for decades to come, period. Then move over to, is this still under point 1, the City of San Clemente strongly embraces the 2012 Presidential Blue Ribbon Commission on America's Nuclear Future, which recommends consent-based siting of nuclear waste. San Clemente shares the coastline and a zip code with Songs, and we wish to make it abundantly clear that the city and its residents strongly oppose indefinite storage of high-level nuclear waste at our border. The city does not agree to be an involuntary host for nuclear waste for decades or possibly forever. Yeah, so it would basically be the first sentence of point 1 and then in its entirety, Mr. Johnson's point 1, because I think it's sharper. And the only thing that I'm wishing for, well, I guess, yeah, that's fine. City Clerk, are you tracking with this if we end up with this? Okay.
So I'm fine with both those comments. I feel like it's incumbent on me to maybe get some perspective on this. This is where I came from. And I feel as if I've been in the weeds for so long, I think it's been almost 5 years that we've been contemplating this issue ever since Fukushima, that sometimes I get a little lost in the detail and my passion for getting the waste removed and forget a little bit about what it was like, coming into this issue. Frankly, before 5 years ago, the only thing I knew about nuclear waste in the federal government was that it killed my grandfather, my father, and my uncle. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Downwinders. Grace Von Thillo was the lady who came out, and she spoke about how her mom was an extra on a set for the Conqueror by John Wayne, and got caught in the nuclear, in the fallout from that. Well, my grandfather was a postmaster in a little place called St. John's, Arizona, up in northern Arizona. My father was a school teacher. My uncle was going to school and visiting periodically. And during that period of testing, in the 50s and 60s, they were doused repeatedly with that fallout. My grandfather the most, he died of throat cancer in his 50s, never having smoked a cigarette in his life. And my father, my uncle, eventually succumbed to long bouts with cancer, multiple myeloma. And so I probably, more than most, have seen what happens when the federal government is irresponsible in their management of waste and irresponsible in their use of nuclear energy. Since then, I've become involved in this issue 5 years ago as a member of council after Fukushima. I've always been passionately committed to understanding the issue and what I feel is the best course for the city. And I know that residents disagree with it, and I completely respect that. But I think it's important to reaffirm that I have 4 daughters who swim in these ocean waters too. I don't surf because I'm so bad at it that it is a disgrace to the art of surfing. So I bodyboard and do what I can, to enjoy it. But I swim in these waters too. I love the city. My wife went to Concordia, graduated from San Clemente High School, and I love it here. I would never want anything to ever happen to the city. And more importantly, I certainly don't believe that waste storage is the best place, that this is an appropriate place at all for waste. And so I'm operating from that principle, which is it doesn't belong here. It should be removed as soon as possible. So the question that's before us tonight, having given all that background, the question before us tonight is the term revoke the permit, right? Revoke the permit. I think probably the clarity that I want to make sure that affords some folks on this issue is that revoking the permit is, first of all, it's a coastal commission permit, so they have to revoke the permit. It's done on the CCC level. Actually, as a city, we have zero jurisdictional control over that process, decommissioning, and all of that. Even the CEP, of which I'm a member, is purely an advisory body and an engagement panel, and one designed to help to facilitate information. And how effective I've been in that role, that I don't know. I can see that I haven't been as good as I hoped at communicating the issues, but I do feel that in this sense that this is just a series of trade-offs, right? There's in many ways what we're looking at is on the plant you've got waste that's already there. So all the waste that we're talking about with this permit that would be on this SFC on this area here, it's already there. It just happens to be in pools underneath the plant. So it's, instead of 100 feet away, it's 300 feet away towards the back of the plant. But it's still all there. It just happens to be in wastewater pools. And the proposal is that you want to move it from the pools to what's called dry cask storage, which is what's being referenced tonight. And then once it's in dry cask storage, that it's air-cooled instead of water-cooled. And it's in the concrete bunkers in these silos. And I don't want to get too much into detail because I know that folks come from different perspectives. One of the things that permit allows to do is to move to those dry cask storage. So the question is that a good thing for our residents? Is it a good thing for it to move to dry cask storage? In my letter into the Coastal Commission, that was the operative principle. It is a good thing. The Coastal Commission agrees with me. Surfrider, all the different environmental groups are all unanimous on that point. As a matter of fact, I think anyone would be unanimous on the point that the move to dry cask storage, I can only tell you what I know, right, which is all the letters in the Coastal Commission report that dry cask storage is better than wet storage. That's just what it is, because what happens is, and you can read it, there's a report in the Coastal Commission, there's a report by the Union of Concerned Scientists, and it talks about why dry casks are better than wet storage. And I would go into that detail here, but ultimately, I'll read you a quote from the Surfrider website on this very same issue. As a matter of fact, most of their letters, and I agree with 100% in terms of even interim storage. It says, if a compromise is not found and the court overturns the Coastal Commission's approval, the spent fuel will remain in cooling pools, where it will be less safe than in dry cask storage, since the pool storage depends on an active cooling system that is more at risk in an earthquake than the dry storage, which has a passive air cooling system. Independent, Gary, you'll have to give me the opportunity to speak if you don't mind. Independent scientific organizations such as the Union of Concerned Scientists support this assessment. We are focused on getting the waste off our beach and facilitating the identification, permitting of safe, effective, long-term solutions for storing radioactive waste. And then it refers to the interim storage sites and even, I believe, Yucca Mountain in a different letter. But that mirrors my position on this, which is I believe it's dry cask storage is better than wet storage, and it also allows for our city to, when those interim storage facilities open up, that we can have the waste removed to those locations. Because the way that it works now is you get, my understanding of the way it's based on when you get decommissioned. So plants who got decommissioned before would have priority. If those sites open up, they would take it from those sites. Unless you're ready, and unless you get prioritized, which is what we're pushing for on our legislative initiatives in the federal government. So we're hoping that not only that it's ready to go, being in dry cask storage, but it's also been prioritized, and that we are, because it's a terrible place for it. It's next to the ocean, It's next to a high population center. We should have priority over a community that perhaps doesn't have that same population center. So that's what I'm working off of, is that ultimately we have to be ready for it and we have to be prioritized into that queue so that we can have it removed. And then the group that's taking it also has to be able to take what you're producing, okay? The fourth thing and the most important thing is that if a site opened up tomorrow, and believe me, I am very passionate about this, is that I would move it anywhere in California, anywhere that's more appropriate, if there's a desert landscape and other items like that, but federal law currently prohibits that. Even the movement to Palo Verde Nuclear Plant, for example, that Mr. Lutz had proposition for. SE has a minority share in there, but the owners have to consent for it, and then the federal government has to license them to receive waste from another plant. Just like all of the waste that's currently at Songs right now, we couldn't accept it. We couldn't be forced to accept it from anybody else without our, without us allowing that, right? So that license allowing it. So we're, for better or for worse, until federal law changes, we're stuck with the waste on site. And so the question is, how do you safely store it on site until the law changes? And that's really what is the push behind it. I don't know if I'm making sense. I know that folks disagree with me. I don't know what other way to look at it other than we want it gone. The fastest way to get it gone is to have it moved to dry cast and have it ready to be done. And that's what I support. I think that's the way we want to go. I think that one of the things that, surprisingly enough, I know Mr. Lutz and Mr. Aguirre are suing SCE, and frankly, if they can extract concessions from SCE that are better than what we currently have, then 2 thumbs up from me. I would be a little pissed, frankly, that SCE didn't give it to us in the first place. That's really what my feeling is whatever is good for the city, I'm in support of it. And secondarily, is that when we look at these issues, that understand that there's a certain understanding of how this waste storage works, that there's a lot of detail and nuance behind it. But I want you to know in my conversations with the council and the CEP and other folks is we all just want it out of here. It doesn't belong, and we're working so hard to that direction and end. And that's really what has been the entire push behind everything I've done. I know I've disagreed at times with Gary and his group, because I feel like a lot of the information, frankly, is sometimes it doesn't help. But I'm speaking too much. I know. I realize that. But ultimately, this is the perspective I'm operating on. I'm supportive of the changes to the letter. I'm supportive of what we're trying to do here. I would also welcome the environmental groups that are here to get behind our push for consolidated interim storage and for permanent storage solution. I support Yucca Mountain, and I support consolidated interim storage, because if we don't, it will be here forever. If we don't do that, it will be here forever. So we have to get behind those pushes. So I'm supportive of the letter. I just wanted to let everyone know where I was coming from on it, because ultimately, I just want what's best for our city.
You're misleading us about the spent fuel.
Gary, please.
So
Wait, Gary,
I just
please.
spent about 10 minutes talking.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wait,
but what do you want me to?
Your spent fuel idea doesn't work.
Gary,
Okay,
please. Gary.
And now they say, oh, we gotta hurry up and get it out of the spent.
Gary,
you're going to be
Gary, I know
ejected,
you're enjoying the yelling at me, but ultimately, I mean, we've got a lot of folks who disagree. So,
Okay.
Okay.
So,
All right.
the task at hand, the theme in Mayor Pro Tem Brown was referred to it. How do we want to land on revoke? This letter and the one that I crafted 2 weeks ago was talking about revisiting and strengthening. The community is asking, or those that spoke tonight, the overwhelming message is take a stronger position.
Okay, would you
on
please talk
revoke.
about which paragraph? Excuse me.
Well,
Please, wait a minute. We are not going to do this anymore. We have to figure this out. You're asking us to do it, but you're interrupting us. Please, be quiet.
all right, so this could be handled, well, first of all, philosophically, we have to decide if this is something that we want to include in the letter. One thought is that it either goes into the lead paragraph or it goes into the concluding paragraph. In other words, these are the 5 things or whatever we end up with. Failing this, we ask that you revoke the permit the question is, do you want to move from revisit to revoke?
I have no problem saying revoke. I think that's what we were looking for anyway.
If they don't meet the conditions that we have placed upon them?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so,
I don't see a problem with putting in the first sentence, because the first sentence says it all, and we just need to replace revisit with revoke. The City of San Clemente respectfully requests the Coastal Commission to revoke the spent nuclear fuel storage permit to Southern California Edison.
I
That's
think
sentence number one.
that, yeah, I think that but part of it is that when the permit for the SFC would be revoked, right? So we want them to meet the conditions the safety conditions we put on them. But we're basically saying is just leave it in the pools. That's
no.
That's the place. That's effectively what, for, I don't know, what, 20 years? How long did it take Yucca Mountain to get developed?
Yeah, the soonest that I know that it is going to get moved off, if Darrell Ice's bill actually gets into law, that we'll be able to maybe get it out of here. And I read that it was like 2020 to 2022 is the earliest.
Which would be exceptional if there was somewhere to take it, right?
Okay.
And if it was ready to go by then.
But the reason revoke language makes sense right now is in January, that stuff is going underground, and whoever it was, the second speaker talking about taking the air out of the balloon, we lose a lot of leverage in the conversation once those the installation is complete, and we're 6-7 months away from that. So there is a sense of urgency that might cause another location to be found, or kickstart discussions
I
with
think if
other
it's
places.
included, we just need to understand the implications.
Yeah, I totally get that, yeah. So then the question is, do you want to sandwich it with revoke in the first paragraph and the last paragraph? Are we,
Yeah, I think Steve's got a good idea in that, given the following circumstance, we request that you revoke the permit. And that's the final sentence.
at the end of the letter?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it?
Steve, you had a good.
Okay, so the remain grateful business?
Yeah, and,
It would come before that.
yeah.
So what do you want it to say? Let's see if we have some good language here.
I think if unable to meet the conditions, then revoke the
And the
permit.
safety that we require for our community, we are demanding that you revoke the permit.
If they don't meet the conditions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to
If
meet
the above
conditions
conditions.
And protect for the safety of our community.
Okay, so if the above conditions cannot be met, San Clemente, what's the verb? Demands that you revoke the permit. Okay.
What about number, I would like to go point by point.
Yes, that's a good plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
'cause
So
this is
first
too much.
paragraph is staying the same. It's going to be revisit and, all right. One, we've already done.
Right. One is done.
One is done, okay.
Were you changing that last sentence? I know that you. came
No,
up
so
with a
number
different-
one,
No, we're not going to, because they replaced it with the other one. So we're just going to include as she read into it.
so what stays in paragraph, in point one, is the first sentence that ends with host community for decades to come. Then you put in Mr. Johnson's complete in its entirety, his number one, which begins with the City of San Clemente strongly embraces and ends with involuntary host for nuclear waste for decades or possibly forever.
Do you need another one?
I know, because I think he's got another point here that we'll want to incorporate. Okay, two,
We're not changing two, right?
Well,
To-
we talked about the aging management plan, but Mr. Johnson says a little more, so I would like to know, Tim, your opinion on that, some of the language that's in there for number two.
I think it's.
The only part I'm.
I think it's
well,
fine. Once we get off.
The only thing that is an issue there is the statement, we insist that only the safest canisters be used for dry cask storage regardless of cost. cost or ease of
Right,
installation.
but
So are we
what-
making a statement on the CAS?
Yeah. What I've learned on this issue,
The aging management plan is one of the
Is
conditions
that-
that's already been imposed.
So I think this is.
And requires
we don't
them
need
to
do that.
perform.
yeah,
right?
so what we have here, and I've also learned over time that we need to be as focused as possible, and canisters is another mountain to climb.
Right.
And it's an important mountain, but
I agree, but I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
I agree with the aging management plan, you know, that needs to be addressed.
It's a critical
Pushed
item,
out.
and
Okay.
it's something that they shouldn't delay.
Okay.
Number 3?
three's fine. Okay, so we seem to have gotten enough pushback on taking a position on places being a bad idea. Mr. Johnson's point 4 reads like this: San Clemente supports federal efforts to develop consolidated interim storage sites in locations where there is local consent. We request that the CCC make it a priority to use its authority and influence to assist at every level in the goal of moving nuclear waste to safe and remote regions until permanent solutions are found.
I think we absolutely need to support the current initiatives on the table, and including permanent storage. I know that there's this widespread claim, you know, about what the utility and the availability for Yucca Mountain, but frankly, I'll leave that to the federal government. But I'm not going to take any options off the table. And we shouldn't as a council, because I know for an absolute fact that Yucca Mountain would be far safer than here on our beaches.
So can we change the last sentence to incorporate, we call on the CCC to make it a priority to use its authority and influence to assist at every level?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. So we're going to lose, Joanne, the last sentence in the, in number 4 and replace it with Mr. Johnson's last sentence in his point number 4. And we're going to keep the specificity since, and for those of you in the audience that may agree or disagree, these are spelled out in the 400-page Coastal Commission staff report. Okay. Okay. All right.
Not that I want to move it on.
And then I would like clarity on number 5, because, Steve, you read some things, and I'm not sure where it was being.
So I helped develop that. So part of that is that in recognizing what PG&E, stepped up on Diablo Canyon, we're asking SCE to do the same, which is to fund our emergency services as long as we want it. That they shouldn't discontinue after 2021 and to amend the current agreement we have with them. So if it's here, then we should have somebody here to, on the city level to manage it.
Yeah, that was basically dovetailed into, what you were talking about, is that, as far as we should be compensated for all, and that's really what's covered here and what they did at Diablo. We're just saying, whatever you did somewhere else as having the same issues, whatever you've done for them, you should be here doing it for us. So that's what that sentence says.
Okay, can I read what Mr. Johnson said on number 5, because I think it's.
And then
it's
that's,
more-
Judy also had, Judy
Okay,
Jones
I
also
think
had a
it's
good
more
comment on this.
direct than what we said on number 5. Finally, we request that the California Coastal Commission require SCE to continue funding all necessary emergency services throughout the entire decommissioning process. PG&E has made such a commitment to the communities surrounding Diablo Canyon, and we expect the same commitment to public safety in this region. I think that reads better. It says local and county services are not equipped to deal with radiation.
I think the
risks.
last sentence is a bit of a non
I don't know if we
sequitur.
can say that. But maybe something about
We can
public
use it,
safety.
in our letter, we talk about the storage process too, which is critical, which he doesn't.
Point that out to me.
Yeah.
We say decommissioning and storage process.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's add that.
Okay, so we're
That the
going,
decommissioning through all commissioning and storage process. Or until the storage is removed.
yeah, just in storage process.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I thought his language, spelled it out a little.
Okay.
better.
So Judy Jones, under this point, and maybe it fits with the aging management plan, but she talked about monitoring of air and water, and I'd like somewhere to see language. We also ask for a rigorous and transparent air and water monitoring program as, period.
I think, I know that they have monitoring currently on site. Now, I don't know as part of the demolition process, where those monitors will be placed after that's done. And so perhaps what you want to do is modify with the aging management system.
Yeah, maybe
is
it
just
fits
say,
there.
and environmental monitoring systems.
On number 2?
That's not 5.
Okay,
still, right?
so what would it say?
Want to bump
Say-
that back to 2?
The aging management.
We just put after sentence 1, key questions regarding fuel monitoring, catastrophe repair, and then say we also ask that a comprehensive monitoring program be maintained.
And transparent. The point is, the public should be
Sure,
able to see
yeah.
it. That's,
So instead of saying transparent, should we just say if it should be made available to the public? Or it should be publicly available?
Monitoring system that's.
a rigorous and publicly available
And
model.
could be monitored by the public?
Yeah.
Also, or
Or accessible.
reported?
Accessible.
Okay.
So what's the sentence?
Where is that going again, and what is it?
It's going to be
On number
sentence,
two.
point
It
number
would be-
2,
It would be the
sentence number 2.
second sentence. We also ask that a comprehensive monitoring system be developed or continued that is accessible
To the public.
to the public.
Air and water monitoring. And soil? Air, soil, and water.
Yes, thank you.
Earth, wind, and fire.
Okay, so do we have a complete letter then? Where is
Hold
the
on,
word
let me-
we're putting revoke? Where
At
is
the end,
that?
the last
statement?
sentence.
STM, that's our
Final
Read that,
sentence.
read that to me.
It's on.
This is what I think we have. If the above, this comes after point 5.
Yeah.
And before we remain grateful. If the above conditions cannot be met, San Clemente demands that you revoke the permit.
Perfect.
Okay. And then the only other thing I wanted especially to ask Tim, we never refer to it as an ISFC permit. Does that trouble you at all? Or do you think that's understood?
No, it's implicit. It's the only thing they have
Okay.
purview over.
And then let me just look at my notes really fast to see if we covered any, revoke, oppose. Yeah. So I move that we direct the
Lori,
city.
before you make a motion, I just need to make a couple comments on behalf of Tim. So, for clarity's sake, for everybody that's here, the 5 of us on council do this almost on a voluntary basis. We make $420 a month, and that's including our cell phone stipend. So by no means are we overpaid government fat cats sitting up here doing this. We're all community members. We've all been in this community for a very long time. Traditionally, I've not been supportive of newcomers to San Clemente. My family's been here for a very long time, but I can say wholeheartedly, without question, that Tim is by far the best council member that I've ever seen for the city of San Clemente. And being that he's a transplant to this community, that means a lot. Tim's family resides as close as anybody's does to the nuclear waste facility on the south end of our town. And he has done a tremendous amount on not only the city council, but the CEP. And to question his integrity and his position, I think, for this community, I think you're doing yourself a disfavor. Because this gentleman here has done more for this community than I think almost anybody has in this room. As far as nuclear waste goes, on my position, aside from Ian Cairns, if he's still here, I think I spend just as much time in the water as anybody else. And I think that's a horrible idea, and I'm sure the rest of the council would agree with me, that storing nuclear waste at San Onofre is an absolutely horrible idea. And my last point would just be that I appreciate everybody's enthusiasm to get this nuclear waste off our beaches. I think it's going to take not only our community, but the entire Southern California community to make this happen. And I just hope that the rest of you can take not only your encouragement and your excitement for this issue, but drive it into other issues as well. Because this isn't the only issue facing San Clemente. As Mr. Vadrine stated earlier, we had our hospital closed last year. We're currently fighting the toll road, and we have a whole slew of other issues that are being addressed every week at this council. And so hopefully you can take some of the excitement you have for this. Hopefully some of you can email other public officials aside from just us, take all the comments you made here this evening and email them forward to Daryl Issa and everyone else up the chain. And let's have our voices heard as a community of Southern California to get this waste off our beach. So thank you.
And before...
Ask a quick question.
No, Gary. No, Gary, let me talk to this. I also would like to explain the background of the CEP in San Clemente. Gary is correct. I have been passionate about this issue since I was mayor, and that goes way back, and I've been consistent about it. Tim was mayor at the time the CEP was created, and at the time the request was that mayors step up and do the work. And Tim signed up for that. Anybody who knows anything about this issue knows it's one of the most complicated, both from a what is the product and service to what are the politics to how do you follow the money. And fortunately for this council, Tim has not only been willing to offer continuity to the CEP, but he's also stepped up to be vice chair of that group, which is a real tall order. I think going forward, we can do a better job of asking for briefings. Mr. Lutz, I'm embarrassed that I was not at that meeting, and that will never happen again, that Coastal Commission meeting 2 years ago when this item was being contemplated, because you're right. I went through, Oceanside seems to have had time to weigh in. Other cities had a chance to weigh in, and San Clemente was silent. But having said that, Tim's done a superior job, and continuity is extremely valuable in that role, and that doesn't stop. I've gone to some of the CEP meetings and just spoken my 3 minutes worth, and I will continue to do that, but it's good for our city to have you as one of the executives on that board.
Thank you. I really appreciate those comments. Really tried my best, and it's just so that folks are aware, we don't get paid on the CEP. I don't even ask for reimbursement on mileage because I don't want to get paid to be on the CEP. I do eat a piece of pizza periodically when I'm hungry, hit the CEP, and that's about all I've gained from it. I just want it gone. I mean, it's so much to ask that we've got the waste on our shorelines. I just don't want it there anymore. So hopefully this will help push that effort. One thing I'll just inform the council of, my tenure on the CEP ends in October. It'll be 4 years, and I intend on resigning at that point, and then this council will be able to make a decision as to who it is would be the next representative there. So, Gary, your wish will come true, I promise.
According to the charter.
Okay, so
one second. I want to make a statement. Having attended a lot of the CEP meetings, definitely not as many as you have. The fact that you came, all of it, the decision to do the consent-based storage came from those meetings, and now everyone's getting behind that. So the CE panel has been a success, and what it's done is allowed the public to totally vet with you all of the options. And I know they keep saying that they have not been vetted, but we know that they truly have.
Yeah, it was
as the best ability of everyone there.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. Thanks for reminding me of this. One of the things that's been very important about the CEP, when we first got on there, it was very discouraging because the only thing was, well, it's Yucca Mountain or it's nothing, and that's really the only 2 points we can expect, and Yucca Mountain wasn't happening at the time. Since then, this whole body of CIS, Consolidated Interim Storage, is coming out, and there's all this information. And I know some folks don't like it, and they're fighting for, who knows why we're fighting that movement there. But ultimately, if we want that waste removed from our shorelines, this is the fastest way to do so. And I think we all want the waste removed from our shorelines. I think we're absolutely unanimous behind that. And so the next CEP meeting is going to be coming up. I'll just plug that right now. May 11th. It's going to be on May 11th. That's right, Thursday, May 11th, and I wanted to get the location right. It's going to be in Laguna Hills Community Center at 2555 Alicia Parkway, and it starts at 5:30, and it's going to be dedicated towards consolidated interim storage. And so, I appreciate, the input. I think it's going to be valuable for that meeting, and ultimately, this is a big win for our community. If we can get this approved, if we can get this moving forward, there's a possibility in the very near future that not only will songs not be there anymore, but none of the waste. And I think that's a dream we would all want at the end of this process.
So, and then before I make the motion, I did there was one other point here. Someone asked if we had invited Kamala Harris to town, and under the leadership of Judy Jones, we had a conference call with Kamala Harris's office last week. Gary Hedrick was part of it, Donna Gilmore was part of it, the mayor of Dana Point was part of it, and several people actually were there in person, and we have invited her to come and look at the 100 feet away from the ocean solution that's being contemplated. So that's in motion. And with that, I move that we ask the city clerk to use, to the best of her ability, the input from this meeting and create a revised strengthened letter to the California Coastal Commission to be reviewed by Mayor Pro Tem Brown and myself before distribution. And in addition to everything we talked about, circling back to the mayor's point, please expand the distribution list to include the courts and the media.
San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego County Courts. That's the motion, okay.
Motion by Doncheck, second by Ham. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. We're going to take a quick break so everyone can move out.
Come on.
Ready? Okay. Next is a report from the Assistant City Manager concerning selection of 2 council members to serve on the Public Safety Task Force.
Good evening, Eric Sund, Assistant City Manager. This is another continued item from our last council meeting. It was the council's desire to deliberate with a full council in making the selection of 2 council members for the Public Safety Task Force. So with that, if the council has any questions, I'm ready to address. Otherwise, we're seeking council's direction on who the council members will be that are designated.
Should we make some nominations?
Yeah, can we get the deputy to close that door for us? Thank you, sir. I think I might know someone who wants to be on it.
He already campaigned the last meeting.
Yes, you weren't here, but yes,
I watched.
I asked to be on it.
Okay.
That goes without saying.
Yeah. I'll volunteer to be on it as well. I think I, bring a unique public safety background to it. There we go.
Okay.
The only thing
Yes.
else.
Go ahead.
Sure. The only thing I'll say is that I
was going to bring it up.
Okay. Yeah. That might be a good point of time to bring it up.
So I just want to take this opportunity to talk about my recent absences at council. So we're down roughly 70 engineers, which is my rank at the current agency I work for. And so I don't have the ability to plan out my schedule ahead of time, hence why I've missed a few council meetings this year already. In the last 3 weeks, I've worked an additional 120 hours on top of my 56-hour work week. So do the math, it's pretty significant, plus my time here. I'm not actively choosing not to come to council meetings. I'm just being forced to work extra days to fill in the gaps, not only in our city, but in cities across Orange County. So I just ask that we appoint an alternate, being that there is no foreseeable end to this force hiring that's been happening over the last 4 months. So that way, if I'm unable to attend the meeting, someone can go in my stead.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that.
And I was going to ask that the mayor, if she's available, step up as alternate.
Okay. I'll be the alternate.
Okay. Scott, is that acceptable?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
So I agree. I think you should be on it because you do have your public safety background, but I want you to be really focused as a council member of what this council wants to see.
I am. Steve and I want more cops. We want 19 more cops. So I'm.
No, okay.
I'm
Maybe
kidding.
we don't
I'm
want
kidding.
you on this.
I'm kidding. No,
Okay.
I completely understand the position.
All right.
I just want to triple our force. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah. No, I completely understand the position of council.
Okay.
And I think I can,
You're not gonna be
tone down
swayed.
Steve a little bit.
Yes.
No, I'm just playing Steve.
I think it's a good balance.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be happy to influence the youngster.
So I move that we appoint Councilman Ham and Councilman Schwartz to serve on a public safety task force with Mayor Ward as an alternate.
Motion by Brown, second by Doncheck. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Just so that we can avoid any Brown Act implications in the future, City Attorney, would you mind just spelling out how that alternate position would work and how they would have to, so the public will know the 3 of them won't come together and make decisions on the Public Safety Task Force? So just maybe a little bit of guidance for the public and us on how that would work in those cases.
Thanks. This question came up this week, maybe with another client of mine, but calling someone to say, can you make a meeting, or talking to Joanne about who can go and who can't go on a particular date, that has to happen between meetings, and that's not a Brown Act problem, to just call and say, can you go? To download and brief up, though, someone who wasn't there really isn't something that you can do except here. So if there's a need to download and debrief and then send you on your way, you'd have to do that here as opposed to talking to one or two.
Would you do that during the council member items as like a briefing
Yep.
item? I
Yeah.
attended this meeting, so, okay, so
Yeah.
if that happens, then we have to
So
do
for
that
next
in
time,
this.
I'd like you to know this, that should happen here.
And the good news with that is Steve can brief Kathy in case I miss another council meeting, so works
Yeah.
out perfect.
Well, and I imagine that applies.
But I
across
only
the
tell
board
her
on
what
any
I
of
want
our-
her to know.
Where a third might rotate in, yes.
All right, next item.
Next is a report from the Public Works Department regarding the Planning Commission's recommendation for trees at Utilities Reservoir Number 1.
Good evening, Mayor Ward, members of the council, Tom Vonnegut, Deputy Public Works Director. I just have a few verbal comments to give some background on this issue, and then I'll turn it over to questions to you. So the item is back before you, as mentioned in the staff report, at the request of the Planning Commission, which felt that its original recommendations to you on this issue weren't accurately presented to the council. So the Planning Commission's most recent recommendations are provided in Attachment 3 to your report, more specifically on page 8C-16, and they differ slightly from the Planning Commission's original recommendation. Under Recommendation 1, which has two parts, the first part is actually unchanged. And the council did previously consider that issue and directed staff to consider those issues of trees and private views in the context of a tree ordinance and policy that is planned to happen in the upcoming fiscal year. And again, that came up during the strategic implementation plan update. So that is planned to happen sooner than later.
Tom, can you tell me what page again?
8C-16 is the page numbering on the, should be the very last page, I think, of the report. So those are the most recent planning recommendations, and I'm just trying to highlight the differences from the original. So there's number 1 and 2. Number 1 actually has two parts. First part of number 1 is unchanged from the previous. So the second part of number 1 is mostly unchanged. What did not show in your report is the strikeout, but the only changes were in the first and third sentences where the reference to Verde Park was stricken out. And then also with regard to, there was a term called park plan that was in reference to Verde Park, that was stricken. That did not, I don't think, show, but otherwise the recommendation was identical to what was previously brought to council. The direction in response to that, the council did consider that and did provide the nearby neighbors an opportunity to replace the trees with landscaping under policy 301-1 with some stipulations about waivers that the council would have to approve, but did open a process to do that. It's staff's understanding that the neighbors did get an estimate to remove the trees, but we have not since been approached, so it appears right now it hasn't moved forward for whatever reason. But that's where that went.
Tom, I'm not seeing in number 2 where it's talking about the neighbors doing this. It's saying that the city should address the concerns of the neighbors and strike Verde Park, but of Reservoir 1. So I think what you're talking about, what you just said, is what actually happened at the first council meeting.
On page 8C-16, these come from, this attachment 3 is the most recent Planning Commission discussion. So that is the most recent set of Planning Commission recommendations. And what I'm telling you is this is almost identical to what actually came before you before. I'm just highlighting the two differences. And the difference is there's recommendation 1, which has a subpart 1 and 2. Subpart 1 is completely unchanged from what came to council before. It's verbatim text. Okay. Subpart 2 is almost the same, except for in the first sentence, it says neighbors of, the Planning Commission struck Verde Park and so they said neighbors of Reservoir 1 through the existing process, and then amending park plan and is stricken, and it just said amending the reservoir site plan.
But tell me where it talks about the neighbors on their own, replacing the trees and everything.
So that's not the Planning Commission recommendation. That was the council direction that came out of when the issue was considered.
Okay,
So
that was what I was saying. I did not see here in the Planning Commission.
So that's in the, I think that is in attachment 2, so the council minutes are there. I'm just paraphrasing what the council considered in response to that original recommendation and where that went.
Right.
So that's where that is. That's in attachment 2. And then finally, the new item is recommendation 2 here, where the Planning Commission directed staff to inspect reservoir number 1 for integrity and or potential root intrusion, and the staff report explains what was done in response to that. The reservoir was inspected and no structural or root intrusion issues were identified. So that's the very brief history. We are transmitting that back to you, or this whole item, at the Planning Commission's request to see if you have any questions and want to consider any different direction. I do have Randy Little, our maintenance manager, here in case you have some more detailed questions. And with that, that's all I have.
Go ahead.
So tonight, what you're asking us is specifically about the trees in the reservoir, correct? That's all we're going to be looking at. We're not talking about what's already been set in motion regarding the plan and the tree policy and everything else. All we're looking at specifically tonight is simply the trees in the reservoir, correct?
That's correct, because the Verde Park was taken out of that, and you've already addressed that through handling it through the tree policy to be developed. So yes.
We do have a card. Oh, Don Brown would like to speak.
I was wondering why he's around here so late. Yep, Don Brown, City of San Clemente, and also on the Planning Commission. Has been a long travail here. I tried to get back and look at the videotape. I think the Planning Commission's concern, as it came out with Randy Little's briefing we did last summer, and it's been quite a while, was there is no coherent plan for all reservoirs, let alone Reservoir 1. In other words, this is the only reservoir that has eucalyptus trees around them. Others have other plants and hiding things. Some reservoirs don't have any type of plantage around them to try to disguise them or blend them into the community at all. This thing kind of stands alone. These trees were planted 40 years ago. Nobody maintains them. There's never been a maintenance plan. They're there. And so I think the Planning Commission is concerned to make sure that the council looked at this. And I think there's an illusion there of view protection, which we never wanted to go to. But the fact that this is just, these things are there, they're unattended, they're unmaintained, they're growing wildly, and they're in an area you, quote, can't get to somehow by access, although I look to them. I'll look at them tomorrow when I play the Muni on the 13th hole of the golf course. And so it's time for this, I think, the city or the staff to come up with a plan for reservoir maintenance, reservoir shielding for all our reservoirs. And so I think that's the focus tonight. Reservoir 1 is just part of that. Reason Verde was pulled off the plan was the city manager is trying to get a letter of agreement with the Capistrano School District so that we can maintain the trees in their part of the around Verde Park, and I don't know where that sits, but that's why we pulled it off the agenda at staff's request, and I don't know the status of that. So the point here is we need to get our Reservoir 1 is just a kind of a litmus or the canary in the coal mine of our total reservoir type approach in the city. We stick them here or there. And the other point to keep in mind is that this reservoir is due to have its capacity expanded and doubled the next year or so. And however you're going to do that might require the trees to be moved anyway, just to get, because you want to go from 500,000 to 1 million gallons of storage, which is not insignificant. Thank you.
I'd like to start just a little bit. I was on the Planning Commission with Dawn, so we heard this first, and the entire neighborhood was there in 2014. And what came to you is not truly what we thought we said. We came to the determination that this was a fire hazard. We were concerned that there was no maintenance done at all on the reservoir. We couldn't figure out why there was a place in the city like this. But what we didn't know at the time is we were told they were on a cutting plan. So we thought we were kind of maintaining, but there is actually no maintenance plan. There's actually no landscape maintenance for the reservoir also. There's also no record of planting them, no public process that they went through, no notice to the residents. We pretty much, this is something that we did, and it has consequences. So, we don't know, but what I'm asking tonight is that we consider removing these because they are a fire hazard. We had a letter from Ron Coleman, who used to be our fire chief and went on to be the state fire marshal, and he knows San Clemente very well, and he said eucalyptus trees are a fire hazard. And what we've planted there should not be planted for a reservoir that is underground. We have impacted the neighborhood and the entire east side behind these. So I am proposing that I would like to see them removed. I think the city's better than this. We don't do things like this anymore, but I would like to fix something that was done that we should not have done and really get this area where the staff can maintain it. They can't maintain what's there now. It's a mess. So it's just been standing here too long, like it is. So I would ask for council support in that. And we had asked of the Planning Commission that the landscape plan be modified and transitioned away from this, not realizing there was no landscape plan. So what we knew in 2014 is not what we know today because of Mr. Little. He went and really dug into the records and looked into it, found we did not have all these items. So I think we wouldn't have been waiting so long on the planning commission and saying, oh, let's go away from the landscape plan and go to bushes. Because I remember we said bushes should be there instead of trees. So that's what I just have to say on the process, and that's how this has happened. But the important point is, this is a reservoir that's underground, and we need to reconsider what we have done.
So we have an underground reservoir, and we planted eucalyptus trees on top of them?
No, to the side.
Adjacent.
Oh, to the side,
to the west of it.
so that the roots can do a good job on it. Okay.
Let me preface my comments with a statement. And, I think this is a unique circumstance that we have here on the south end of town. And under no circumstances do I normally support removal of city-owned trees, especially ones that are in a public place that can be enjoyed by all. Lori and Tim remember this. This is where I quoted my public, non-public spaces comment a few years back. And this is one of those spaces that it's publicly owned, but it's not available for the public to enjoy. So with that said, and to the side, I think as a community, as a city council, as a city, we're all neighbors. And while I don't live next door to Steve, I don't live next door to Tim, we are all neighbors. And good neighbors are what we all hope for. Make no mistake that the removal of these trees would be a huge financial benefit to the residents on the east side. I'm in support of some sort of amended removal. Definitely not a complete removal by the citizens of San Clemente, some sort of shared cost agreement between the two, and then a replanting as well, so that we do maintain some sort of shrubbery base, as you were talking about, around the facility. I'm not going to be
Oh, go ahead.
I'm not going to be supportive this evening of the city council or the city of San Clemente bearing the entire cost of planting these trees. Yeah, it was a mistake, but it was a mistake the city made. So we don't know who planted them. That's okay. So it's correct. It's a mistake that was made previously. So if we can come to some agreement on what that dollar figure looks like, how we get there, maybe it's something to the effect of what the expanded site will look like in 2 years, and then we extrapolate the cost of what our removal of trees would be and go from there.
We're probably farther off than 1 to 2 years to redoing the reservoir. Probably
Okay.
closer to 5 years, according to Public Works staff after discussing it with them. We're not ready to do it, so it's about a 5-year project. I think there's 54 trees out there. We've talked about a cost of about $60,000 to $75,000 to remove the trees.
Can I ask Randy one question? There's a lot of native shrubs that are in the area, but they're obviously not growing where all these trees are. Do you know what I'm talking about? We have them in our coastal canyons. Can we kind of plant those instead? Because they're not, they're not requiring water. We're not watering anything over
Yeah,
there.
most of our native plant material that we're using requires irrigation for an establishment period. It varies 2 to 5 years, and then it can be abandoned. That specific site, Reservoir 1, does not have any irrigation, does not have any shrubs. It is not, we do have a standing contract for reservoir maintenance, but it only includes 9 reservoirs that have irrigation and shrubbery. No trees at any reservoir site historically have ever been maintained at all. So that's where it kind of stands, and James was correct in saying it's $60,000 to $75,000 for the removal of just the eucalyptus. There's also Aleppo pines
Right,
mixed
there's a lot
in
of pine
amongst the
trees.
eucalyptus.
Right. What I would like to suggest is that staff get like 3 bids on this and give the opportunity for different, maybe people cut trees down differently and don't use all the equipment that other people use, and maybe the cost would be less. Because we shouldn't just go with one.
I think we would, in the public process, we have to go through that procurement, right? We have to go out to bid, and, so it's gonna, I think it would be bid like a typical project, and-
Public Works project, over $35,000.
Okay. What do we do at other reservoirs? Is there other reservoirs, I can't even say it, reservoirs where there's a slope?
Yes,
What do we
Salvador
do?
has one, Andalusia has one. We don't maintain any of those sites at all.
So it's just dirt?
It's asphalt, it's dirt, it's rock, it's trees, and they've just let them go. It's just the way it is. The only time we ever go to those sites is if a tree has failed, like Andalusia in January during that heavy storm that fell across the access road. Other than that, we don't even really go up there unless utilities request us.
Do you have a suggestion of what we could do with that slope that doesn't require a lot of planting, or you think we should plant bushes?
I
on that
personally would think some shrubs for erosion control
Right,
is
that's what I was
critical. But obviously, the height can be maintained to where it'll not be a nuisance to anyone.
Okay.
What if we're going to talk to the houses that are looking to have these removed also, and maybe there is water somewhere up there available that can be used to irrigate to establish the planting we want to do in lieu of the trees. In other words, instead of us having the city to spend money to put a whole irrigation system in there for a few years for it to, yeah, for it, maybe we can work with the community while we're helping them remove the trees to help us establish the replacement shrubbery that we were going to put there.
Couldn't we do the water bags on them too? Not the little teeny ones that they do, but the big ones that we've used for the medians that we aren't watering?
It's a possibility. The only problem with those gator bags, and I'm the one that introduced them on the medians during the drought, they require twice-a-week visits. So staff costs can get high because they're visited by a contractor. We don't have in-house staff that can fill them.
We don't have a water truck?
We do not have a water
I
truck.
didn't know that.
So do we need to find out whether or not there's resident interest in a cost-sharing model?
Well, before we go there, I just want to register, I'm not going to be supporting this tonight because I applaud the idea of correcting something that was done incorrectly in the past, but if we're less than 5 years away, or about 5 years away from looking at this site in its entirety, I would rather not go down the slippery slope of protecting private views at the expense of so many trees when we've been assured that the roots don't seem to be a problem and that the fire hazard seems to be something that they can address through maintenance. So, so I won't be voting for protecting private views.
I'm actually supportive of the removal, but I am still want to find out if there is interest in residents cost sharing on this, being that it is extremely unique situation. Chris's idea, I think, has merit. I just want to make sure before we provide that direction to the commission that we ensure that it's got viability, that we'll have residents be willing to kick in, similar to what, you live in a historic district, you pay 50% of the sidewalk costs. Yeah. Maybe it would be a similar type of cost sharing model. But I'll support the recommendation for the tree removal and some cost sharing method.
And to add to that, I have a real problem with tree removal in general. I believe in tree replacement when it gets unmanageable. Also, I'm having an issue regarding doing it for private view. So that is causing me some issues. But I do know how hazardous eucalyptus are. And I would like to find a way to eventually remove them from our city as much as possible.
They're not in our plant palette anymore, by the way.
So
They will
if there can be a cost sharing where the local groups get together and are picking up the cost, and we are putting in a palette with a mix of heights, not just low shrubs, but a mix of heights so that people looking up on the hillside can enjoy it too. I would support something like that.
I'd just like to add that when my neighborhood hears about this, there's eucalyptus in the canyon that are on city property, and
They're in mine, too.
they will be in line too for a sweet program like this. We are setting a precedent.
That's not what we're doing. That's not what I'm doing.
What are you doing?
I am trying to fix a wrong that we did, that we planted trees in an area that they're not for public enjoyment. People aren't under them, shading themselves. They can't get to them. We planted these at an area with no public process, no outreach, and that was wrong. And it's for a reservoir that's underground. It's unnecessary.
And the canyons near the high school are the same issue. There's, huge eucalyptus that nobody can enjoy.
I have them in my canyon. I'm not asking for them to be cut out. And they block my ocean view. But, I think my neighbors planted them there. So, anyway.
Yeah,
We have one card.
Oh, okay.
Another card. Okay. Alan.
With respect to everything that's been said, make no mistake about it, the only reason these trees are being removed is to save the view of a couple of residents that are upstream from those trees. They have been there for probably 40, 50, 60 years. They have originally, I'm sure, were put in place to go ahead and protect everybody else's view of the water tower. But when you go ahead and start removing eucalyptus trees that are guarding that reservoir to save somebody's view, you are also putting in jeopardy every tree and every canyon that was not planted by anybody in this city. So you are going down a very slippery slope. A couple of years ago, when I was co-chairman of the GPAC, there was supposed to be a tree ordinance. It has never come to pass. It was on one of your items to be addressed on an immediate basis. It has never been addressed. This should be done first before considering taking out trees, whether they block somebody's view, whether you have trees that are in your canyon but you may not want them removed. You have to have a tree policy, which is good for everybody in this city. So spending $65,000 or $70,000 of city money, part of which is mine, I would object to. I agree with Councilman Schwartz and Donchek. Let's see what the tree policy looks like before starting to remove trees that save anybody's view. And if this person's view is being blocked, let them put up the money at least, or part of the money, to go ahead and have these trees cut down that have been there for 40, 50 years. So I thank you very much. You can go ahead and trim these trees, spend a few $1,000s and trim them to save his view, improve his view, but don't start taking down trees, and at least have something in mind, a plan to go ahead and replace the blockage of those. If you're sitting on the 13th tee or you're approaching it up the 12th fairway, you see a lot of trees. Looks very nice. May not shade anybody or do anything else like that, but it is definitely an asset to this community. And spending $70,000 to remove an asset, I think, is really inappropriate. And I thank those that have spoken out for trees. Thank you.
Okay. So, did you hand me a card?
Yeah, she did.
I did. I didn't see it. Oh, yep, I have it. Nope,
Thank you.
I have it.
Great, thank you.
Sorry about that.
I was showing Chris, San Clemente is the #1 Main Street in all of the Southern California beach towns. And I downloaded the pictures of the different towns that are the best cities. We're #1. And what they all have in common is they have trees all over the place. That's what every one of those main streets have, is trees. I'm familiar with this issue. I didn't realize it was 75 trees. I went to Mr. Stewart's house and I looked, and I thought that at the time that he brought this up that he was willing to prune them himself. He said I would top them. He just wanted permission to do it. They're a baffle. They're a buffer to that tank. I don't know why they couldn't just be topped. And whatever you do, I would urge you not to do it in the nesting season. This is the nesting season. I would have as many as 100 hummingbirds come to my feeders every single day. And my neighbor next door had their house tented for termites, and the big tree next to me was severely pruned. Over the last 2 weeks, I've seen 2 hummingbirds, and I had over 100 a day for 3.5 years. So you have to be careful. So whatever you do, don't do it during the nesting season. I would urge you maybe to consider topping these trees, and if you're going to be doing something massive in 4 years anyway, do it then. I am sensitive to his view issue. I know this has been brought up and gone through. The tree ordinance was to preserve trees. It wasn't to facilitate view preservation, and it seems like that's kind of where we're going. I don't know of any tree that's been preserved. I know of trees that have been removed for view protection. So, and when the pine trees, there's no better tree for the environment and for the birds than a pine tree. They have those little cones and they feed all the birds. So I would urge you to leave those, maybe prune them nicely so they don't bother his view. That's really my input. And Pat Holloway would have a lot to say here, but she's been ill, and I believe that she has written you a note. The tree organization would love to have a little input on this. Thank you.
Bill Stewart, followed by Bob Steele.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Stewart, and I live right behind the issue of the trees. I've lived there for 14 years, and when I bought the property, it was extremely expensive, and the value of my property is the view. As I lived there, there was only trees on the right-hand side. These trees, what they're saying 40 years and all that, that's not true at all. They kept marching around the tank, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. About a year ago, a giant eucalyptus, I called the city and said, it's gonna fall. It started leaning. 4 days later, it landed in the cul-de-sac. It would have killed somebody. You would have been in a lawsuit from hell if that would have happened. You were warned. So this has now become this ridiculous fire hazard beyond belief. And me and Bob Steele, my next door neighbor here, has chipped in many times, thousands of dollars to have them trimmed. Once you trim a eucalyptus, it gets stimulated and it gets bushier. I think I did it 3 times, and maybe Bob did it 5, or he's been there a lot longer than me. He's owned the house for 50 years. So you talk about trimming a tree or adjusting a tree, doing this or that. So many people, Google how many people have died from eucalyptus trees in Australia. Check it out. And there's people have died from just the limbs falling off those trees. It's an unstable tree. It's the second worst tree in California. They really should be all removed. They came over for the railroad tracks initially, and they didn't work for railroad tracks. So it was a dumb idea. Now, nobody called us or called Bob and said, hey, we're gonna block the view from this guy that didn't want to see the water tank, which I think is ridiculous. Once they were planted, then it went nuts. Then now it's just, it goes and goes and goes. And everybody says, oh, we're gonna trim, we got a maintenance program. There's been no maintenance program. So that's the truth of it. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart, was there any interest in the cost sharing program?
Just so you know, I had 5 bids. We were ready to do the job. Colleen came up to my house.
Can you speak on the mic, please?
Colleen or Sharon?
Sharon. Sharon came to my house. After I got all the bids, I had 4 or 5 bids. We were going to pay for the whole thing. The trees were smaller back then. And when she came in my backyard and said, okay, well, here's what I want you to do. You're going to have to replant trees at your expense. Then you have to run a water line from your house to the trees to water them from my house. And I threw up my hands and I said, I'm out, I'm done. And so that's what killed the program, the whole concept, which would have been handled years ago, but I was denied. But I thought it was insane that I'm running water on a tier program. You got to pay more money the more water you use. So my water bill would have went through the roof to water plants on your property. Buy a water tank. What? Are you kidding me? This is insanity. So I just went, okay, forget it. I'm over it. So here we are again. I think this is near, 3 or 4 years now, this circular conversation. It's Groundhog Day. So thank you. So that's the story. Okay, here's Bob.
Mr. Steele.
Thank you, Council. Mayor Ward, I think you're absolutely right. We didn't plant these goddamn trees, and now they've gone crazy. And there aren't 75 of them. You go up and count, there's about 8. They're big. They're really big trees, and they're dangerous. What Bill was saying about he had to call and say a tree was broken or falling. Well, I brought a picture last time in 2014 when I was here. I brought a picture and showed you there was a broken limb there, and that was a dangerous thing, and it did come down. I'd like to have the money that Rodriguez has made removing trees from the golf course, eucalyptus trees from the golf course. They are dangerous, they fall. That street that comes up there, Bahia, it goes to Little League Park. How'd you like to have one of those trees fall on a family? They're taking their kids up there. Boy, that would really be a black eye for San Clemente. And you're right, Mayor Ward, they're a fire hazard. I have a big property, and that we get news from the fire department that we have to keep it watered and clean and so forth, and we do. But they don't do a goddamn thing about the trees. Pardon my English. I have an MBA, but I can't speak right. But anyway, it's an insult to us to have those plantings and have them grow wild and grow to now 80 feet? Bill says they're 140 feet, but they're way the hell up there. And it's unfair to us as citizens that somebody planted those trees. I don't even think it was the city. I think it was somebody else that planted them so they wouldn't have a view of Reservoir number 1. But this isn't fair to us to have this thing grow like it does. I would like to say one thing too. You did cut that tree down that was broken. And number 2, somebody did come up and clean up all the refuse underneath the trees. And yeah, well, thanks. And so it was productive for us to say something before. And so, I'm just saying that it's the city's responsibility, and I would say this, that if you're going to deepen the reservoir, why don't you do it in stages? Why don't the first stage be to remove these trees? And put it in your budget to do that. But, in the meantime, we're being unfairly treated. We like trees. I love trees. And I play on that golf course all the time. And I can guarantee you, when I play 13, I never look at those trees. They have no effect whatsoever there's some trees, Chris, there's trees in the little canyon part next to the restrooms there. That's what you see in trees. You don't look at those trees off of Bahia. They're a mess. And so anyway, just do us a favor and meet your responsibility. Mayor Ward, you got it right.
Hi, I'm Mark Freeman. Just wanted to make a point, just ask a couple questions about the, I heard the number that there was something like, now I heard it was 64 trees down there. 54? Are those all eucalyptus trees or just every tree that's potentially down there?
On city property around that reservoir.
And I think the request, or at least predominantly the request, was around predominantly the eucalyptus trees because they're the ones that have grown so much. So I just asked maybe we consider that part of it as opposed to it's all 54 trees. Maybe it's the eucalyptus trees, which are the fire hazard and the potential issue. Just a question. Thank you.
Well, what's the breakout between eucalyptus and pine down there? Do you remember?
The bid that we discussed was just the eucalyptus trees.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay. All right. So the pines aren't included in that.
No, they are not. And as a side note, in my professional opinion, it's removal or leave them alone. We do not top trees. It's a violation of our contractual policies that we have in the city. Topping just creates a nightmare. It creates much more of a safety hazard 5 years down the road. So it's either remove them or leave them, pretty much.
There's still a lot of trees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just to know, I dealt with trees as an HOA president, and my concern is also when you start eliminating trees for views, it really becomes horrendous. But also, you never top a tree because they become very unstable, and you're just asking for all kinds of other problems too. So,
Well, go ahead.
I'm gonna move forward with a recommendation. I think I'm gonna include a little bit of what Steve said and still stick to my guns on the fact that I don't see the city bearing the majority of costs on this. I think it needs to be split between the residents that want the trees removed and the city itself. And then I like the idea of removal and replacement. I don't like the idea of just straight removal of trees, so I think that needs to be included in the cost as well. They obviously don't need to be mature trees, and they'd be ones that are included in our plant palette.
We looked at bushes when we were on the planning commission.
I'm sticking with Steve on this one. I like the idea of tree removal and replacement. I think if you're going to be removing trees, you need to replace them with trees.
I'm not going to be in favor of two-story trees. For
two-story trees.
Well,
trees that grow really tall.
Well, yeah, I think that we can get.
Bill just
We don't need
walked up to the microphone. Did you just real quick? Do you have a comment on that, Bill?
Yeah, I do. The bids that I got were all over the map, and when you talk about $70,000, that's not what it's going to cost. There's a bunch of different people that I got all the bids were shocking. Rod's was the highest, and not even near the other ones. So, as long as we have the right to look at all the bids, and as long as they're have the right contractual agreements with the city and the right permits and to do this, then I don't think I'll have a problem collecting enough money from the people on the hill to clean that up one time clean and start fresh. If you're going to do it halfway, I don't want to do it.
What do you mean by halfway?
Well, if you start nitpicking and putting, oh, we want these trees and these bushes and water this and do a, you know what? If it's cleaned up one time and it looks really nice, I'm good with that.
Well,
But that's the problem.
Yeah, here's what part of the reason why the cost for the city would be more than for a private homeowner is because if we're dealing with public works contract, we're dealing with a prevailing wage job. And therefore, the people that would do that are required to pay, and the overall cost is a lot higher. So if the homeowners, if we come up with a method to permit the homeowners to remove specific trees, and in that same vein, then the city come back in, maybe in a separate contract, to replace in a pallet that won't get out of control, that will fit within what we've discussed, that are not a fire hazard, then maybe I would be supporting that.
Well, that's interesting.
Well, we can look at all the landscaping once we work on the reservoir.
Yeah, so.
And we shouldn't do it before then.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not sure we should.
Yeah, I think
Or
you've
clean
taken
it
on
up.
that. To Steve's point, the ability for us to basically say, almost as if it's a, like FAM or some of these group, which is basically like, well, you just do what you need to do. And then, isn't it going to trigger prevailing wages if happens on city property? Scott, help me out on that.
Yeah, the more city fingerprints on it, the more likely it is to trigger prevailing wages. But there are some alternates and some cooperative agreements that we could look at where you'd split the work up.
So
literally,
maybe I'll provide some clear direction here on a way of maybe finding a path forward. I'm gonna vote for a removal. I'd love to see a cost-sharing structure. I do believe as they're going to be contributing, they should have a say into the bid process, or at least into what that's going to look and feel like. I think that it should be exclusively to the eucalyptus tree removal, right, that cost component, and then the city would look at the plant replacement palette and how that works when we redo the reservoir at some point. And by, I think, separating that and making those very clear, I don't think we're going to have that mission creep that you were fearful of, and that I would be fearful of too.
The gray area, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, well, just, throw these.
Keep adding on.
So if we just do the tree removal, we're leaving the pine trees up, that's what we're going to be doing at this point. But I think the council direction at this point is to say we do want to replace them with other trees that we're going to be looking at the next phasing, right? When we do the reservoir replacement or go up and do that.
Low-growing bush style.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Nothing, these massive towering trees. Did you have a comment, James?
Now, we can work on that. We can, Randy can get some bids from a number of different providers out there, and we'll go over them with the neighborhood out there and see what we can do.
So,
Is that a motion?
I guess that would be a type of motion or direction.
Yeah, we're just giving directions.
And then I think that's clean enough.
And the outside bids can come in and have bids?
And, so we would go through our public process, which will get bids from a number of different companies, and by law, we're usually forced to pick the cheapest.
I'm going to start and adopt a reservoir. I want to adopt the reservoir, okay?
We're cleaning it up.
It's mine to clean up.
All right, that's fine. We'll call it the Bill Stewart Reservoir. Anyway.
It'll be the cleanest it ever has
So,
been.
Anyway, so that would be the motion I would present, is that we would ultimately, that if we move forward with removal, that it's focused only on the eucalyptus trees, that we would have a cost-sharing structure put into place, that the bid would be collaborative with the people who would be participating, and that the second phase of this is when we do the reservoir remodel redo, that we would incorporate a different palette that would be far more compatible with, that area, screening for the plants, and then also for the residents' consideration, just for the overall safety. This isn't, unfortunately, with this type of problem, it's not something that gets better over time. It's not something that 10 years from now we'll be in a better situation. So I think it's best to just address it, correct it, and then focus on the future with the next phase. Oh, yeah, and then to be done in an appropriate consideration for nesting season and for,
Absolutely.
that was actually a really good point by Georgette. So that be consideration of the nesting season, and we are leaving the pine trees alone, which is great.
Well, are we leaving them alone, or are we going to trim them a little?
Just leave them alone.
Just leave them alone.
Leave them alone?
They've been recently brought up
Okay,
from the
that was
grade.
my
Okay.
point.
So
Okay,
we'll
thank
just
you.
make sure that we're done, and consulting with the folks responding to the RFP, that we won't be doing during a nesting period, and that we'll be able to allow that to happen.
Second.
Motion by Brown, second by Ham. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So, aye, Ham, Brown, Ward, and Sports, and no, Doncheck. I still have to do that, right, Joanne?
Yes, you do.
Okay. I'm trying.
Okay. Next is a report from the Deputy Public Works Director regarding selection of a council member to represent San Clemente at upcoming OCTA Transportation Planning Workshops.
Last thing. No, overhead.
OCTA?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking
This was so
undergrounding.
riveting, you.
I did write this letter, I guess, didn't I? Or I write this report, I'm sorry. Hi, it's Tom Vonnegut, Deputy Public Works Director again. This is at the council's, well, this is actually at OCTA's request, this item, for your council to consider designation of a council member, and if you so desire, a staff member to participate. I believe your council actually discussed this, perhaps Member Doncheck brought it up, but this is one of the planning processes that is now firing up with regard to the long-range transportation plan and then a transit plan. And so this is the opportunity to get involved with those and provide feedback. That's my summary.
Got it, Lori?
Is this something that you are willing to do?
Sure, I'll do this. It's 3 meetings. I would like to request a staff member to also participate.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's
About
Tom.
I'll be
Tom
happy
did
to
such a
join.
good job
Yeah.
at the
Oh,
Mozilla
really?
working group.
Okay.
Yeah, I have another worthy candidate, but my staff is quite busy on delivering projects, so I would like to,
Great,
I'll
okay.
I'll be happy to join.
I know, I know.
We're here to serve.
So that's good, because the LRTP is so important, and, that we, especially now.
Sure.
So I appreciate that you
Okay.
want to do that.
And as it goes forward, if we need an alternate or something, we can work that out, but I'll definitely cover the first one.
Okay. So we don't need a motion on that, do we?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
Next is
Yeah.
report, from the Deputy Public Works Director concerning an update on undergrounding of overhead utilities.
So I just want to make one correction. This is in response to a prior council request. So you're all aware that recently the Los Molinos and Calle Valle undergrounding district, that project was completed after many, many years of planning. And so with that, it's an opportune time to update the council on where we are and some challenges with Rule 20A funding. The report has all that background. The clarification I want to make is because there was a relatively recent change to Rule 20A, I mischaracterized. In the report, I mentioned that Avenida Florencia, which we have had a request from neighbors to underground, that ordinarily would not have been eligible under the old Rule 20A. There's a new insertion there with regard to impeding wheelchair access, which is the case in that particular project. There is a sidewalk there. It's a continuous sidewalk, save for locations where there are power poles that are right in the way and that you don't have 4-foot clear. So if the council were to go that route, I do think that particular project would be eligible, and I wanted to note that because I mentioned that it wasn't. I was still thinking old Rule 20A, since these don't come up so often. But with that, I gave you background on the Rule 20A, general processes, challenges, potential funding sources, an old list that was out there from a prior council as to some other projects, and with that, we're looking for any comments, direction, where to go next, and I made one suggestion, and with that, I'll take any questions you have.
Yeah.
I have one question. We had that failed TOT initiative last election cycle, and it's probably going to come back around. In looking at ones that passed in other cities, undergrounding was considered in the descriptions of what the TOT might be used for. Does that, if we end up with a menu of this is what if a TOT could be used for, does it help you if undergrounding is listed as one of the possible uses?
I don't know, and I may have to defer to the city attorney. I don't know that
Is
it
money
helps
our
or
problem?
hurts. I just
Yeah.
know you, and you're aware, if you get very specific on a measure, you become almost a special tax measure, but to the extent you help
the ones that
your-
I've looked at, it's a menu. It's a selection of it
And so
might
if
be used for
If
this,
it's a
it
menu
might
to
be
help
used for
people
that.
understand, probably doesn't hurt, subject to the requirements
That's
about
fine.
being careful on the special tax.
Yeah, there are two schools of thought, but if the measure says for such things as undergrounding, et cetera, then they've survived challenge as being a general tax and not special.
Because one city in particular said that was a really compelling reason to vote yes for that particular tax.
Yeah, but the tax wouldn't be earmarked so that the money didn't have to be spent on it.
No, it's a menu.
What is the funding currently for our going forward on this?
So right now, our world of funding is strictly the allocations under Rule 20A under the CPUC rule. We have no city other funds dedicated. So in attachment 4, you had the rather grim picture. Basically, we do get allocations. It's a formula, and it changes every year, but it decreases over time. Those are estimates. And so our undergrounding funding, if you will, is just limited to our Rule 20A account, which can only be used for those 5 categories of projects I mentioned. And currently, as you're aware, and I noted in the report, we have on the books 2 Rule 20A districts, both in the Del Mar area, one of which has a preliminary design, the other, no work is started. That's our world of underground funding at this point.
Can I jump in here for a minute?
Yes.
So first off, if Eric is still here, can we have Eric come up? I'm sure he can hear me. If not, can someone? Not you, Eric. No, sorry. I'm not requesting you come to the podium. The other Eric. But while he's doing that, I just want to bring up that I brought up this item a couple times, and then obviously we had the support from the community member that came late last year to ask for this to be agendized as well. I'm going to be supportive of moving forward on the 28 for North Beach. I think there's other opportunities besides Florencia. We do have disabled persons who commute along that axis on a regular basis, on a daily basis, and they're using the street currently. So I think we have an opportunity to apply for those funding monies.
Can I add to that
Sure.
while you're on North Beach?
Yeah.
Buena Vista.
So Buena Vista is going to be my
Please.
next one. The
Okay,
issue with
thank
Buena Vista is that we currently don't have a continuous sidewalk, and I'm hoping that in the future we can push for that, because North Beach is probably the highest density community we have in San Clemente, and it has the most impact in terms of missing sidewalks and in terms of power lines on the sidewalk. So with that, now that Eric's here, my one question to you, Eric, is my street lighting fund.
That is correct. So the street lighting fund is
Rockstar.
within the general fund revenues. So the question that would be posed to council as it relates to the proposal of the CIP budget in fiscal year 17-18, you'd have to prioritize how you'd like to allocate that money.
Perfect. So
How much money?
Yeah.
Well, what we'll present to you in terms of what we have available for CIPs, it'll be the council's purview to determine how they want to prioritize that with projects.
Okay.
Perfect. So I just want to drop, a couple years ago during the budget process, I came across this one line item and I said, hey, Eric, what is this line item? And he goes, you know what, let me take a look at that. And it's for street lighting in the community of San Clemente. So we can use the street lighting money combined with some of this 20A money to get some of these projects off the ground. And to George's point out in the audience, a lot of the undergrounding we've done in the past have been in commercial districts and not beneficial to the residential neighborhoods. And so I think this is an opportunity where we can dive right in and do some good work.
Well, and I want to add on to that. I think it's a it is a good idea to look at North Beach to be the next area we go to. We're trying to focus on that area.
Yeah.
We have a lot of things going on there, a lot of improvements. It is the entryway from our north into our town, and I would like to see, this would fit right into what I like to see as far as being improved and brought up to where it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll defer to Tom Vonnegut, but with any underground project, typically it's a multi-year project. So with committing of funds, it's not a one-time. It would be, potentially looking at the Los Molinos area. We took almost 10 years, I want to say, over 10 years to accomplish that from a funding perspective. So if the council wanted to designate some of that money and then, let's say, $250,000 for the next 12 years to fund that up while we're looking for, grants and so forth from SDG&E to help supplement that, that's something staff can do.
Perfect. The second point that I want to bring up, and hopefully we can get support for it, is in Los Alamos, the community itself went out and created a tax assessment and actually had the poles underground. I'm hoping that as a council, we can direct staff to basically create a template so any community in San Clemente can move forward and make this happen, and they don't have to do the legwork. That's a great idea. So
It is.
those are the two things I'm going to be asking tonight of council.
Okay. Did Tom get that? You'll get it when you watch the video.
I know what
I know.
Councilmember Ham's.
They have to watch it to see what we said. 'cause-
Just to paraphrase, what we really need is, we have an undergrounding ordinance in a section of our code. We don't have a set of policies and procedures that we really should develop, have your council bless. Those are the ground rules for going forward on how this would work and who would do what.
Then the biggest thing you need from us is what priority level this needs to take? Is that the issue?
We need some direction on that, and then more specifically, I heard some potential projects, and I heard Rule 20A, and that means some very certain things. There are certain things that have to happen. We can't just do it. We have to come back to you, do resolutions, establish a district, but more importantly, because we already we have a significant shortfall for the Rule 20A project that's already approved, some confirmation, are we going to still focus on that to get it done? Are we redirecting priorities to something else and we're going to not do that? It's already on the books and it's already approved, and we need your direction on your desire.
So, my thought on this is just reading the staff report and talking to Tom, it looks like the Del Mar project, while admirable, is going to be a considerable amount of time out. So maybe we push pause on that for now, and we move forward with something that's more tangible and can be achieved, in the more near future.
Wait, let me just ask one question real quick. Off that, is it because Del Mar is so complicated because we added this alley, streetscape and all that plan to it? Is that what's making it last longer or cost more?
No, the alley sort of potential streetscape master plan, if you will, that's a totally separate thing that you would consider doing after we got those overhead utilities under. That's basically what would go back is just pavement unless you did something else. That's not in the cost. It's just the cost because it's a complicated project.
Would streets that lead to schools like Florencia or Buena Vista, would they meet the criteria better for Rule 20? Because they're Buena Vista's on the way to the beach, and it's a public area.
So the issue is that, and the key that you got to key into is right now Buena Vista is an interrupted sidewalk, meaning there is gaps in the sidewalk. There is telephone poles along the entire stretch of where the sidewalk should be.
Right.
Whereas Florencia is an uninterrupted sidewalk with telephone poles along it. So,
Yeah, there's
George,
some
you're not
sidewalks
helping
there.
us for now, George.
Yeah.
You're hurting the process.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
So
what are you saying is a better priority? You're saying Del Mar,
I
Florencia is
no,
better than?
I'm not saying Florencia is better priority. I'm just thinking it's a more feasible priority at this point.
What do you have to say about?
The undergrounding, wherever you do, is challenging. My understanding of what the Florencia project, none of them are easy. The Del Mar project is bigger, so it's more expensive, it is more complicated, but I just want the council to be aware if that's the priority, that is going to take a while. Probably off the top of my head, a ballpark estimate, that's at least $1.5 million plus project right there, depending on if that meets the minimum 600 or 700 feet of line. That hasn't been defined necessarily, the scope. I have a rough idea. It's just, undergrounding is not easy and it's expensive.
But the beauty of 20A is that that's covered, those costs are covered by it.
It's covered. I just want to make sure the council's aware that
That's the difference.
you would be taking away from one to do the other because there's only so much money so you're aware of that.
And my reason for supporting that is because the previous undergrounding projects have been all in commercial districts, and we've heard from multiple residents saying that, hey, when are the communities going to get some of this support and some of this funding to make these things happen? And I think this is an opportunity where it's presented itself to us, and we can make a project like this come to fruition. So we're not just solely focusing on commercial districts, we're spreading the wealth among the residents as well, especially in a high density area that's going to have a huge impact comparatively to Los Molinos, or the alleyways behind Del Mar.
Right. Where people can walk.
Is there a way that we can push this off for a couple of weeks and check in with the downtown merchants and see if they, I'd like to hear whether they care or not.
I have a DBA meeting tomorrow morning, so I can check with them. I'm sure they're going to care, but,
Well, but
we
you're
get
raising
paid to make
you're raising an interesting point. It's a double-edged sword. One is the businesses will be disrupted, but yet the other is it'll be a real facelift for the, main street of town.
It'll be a backlift, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Not a facelift, a backlift.
Okay, back tuck,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
To answer your question, the council isn't under any, it's only whatever timeline you wish. We're not under any regulatory deadline because of the funding. There's no time pressure externally. It's just how fast or not you wish to move on this.
Is there one of our areas where we could get SDNG monies more readily? I mean, are there certain, do they have available grants or something where there are concerns regarding multiple transformers being stacked up on poles, or certain other areas where they may be more forthwith in coming to us with some grant money?
We're not aware of any other program. This Rule 20 is what guides the undergrounding efforts through the investor-owned utilities. So this is what you get if you want it to be on, well, I say their dime, it's really ratepayers' dime. We're not aware of any grants. The only other options would be what I laid out in the report, whether it's general fund or doing an assessment district model where the property owners pay, or some combination of city property owner, or a tax measure that, again, provides another revenue stream.
I would like to see some type of estimate of timelines between the two projects.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
What are we talking about as far as commitment of timeline out if we decide to move it over to North Beach, or how long will we wait to get to North Beach as how long it would take to get down to Del Mar?
So, Tom, in the report, I think you say Del Mar is like 2030 at the soonest?
Based on saving enough allocations to be able to do it.
And what would you, I know I'm putting you on the spot right now because I didn't ask you this question earlier, but what would you think getting something like Florencia?
The best I could give you is possibly sooner, because I think the cost would be lower, but we would be starting from ground zero. There would have to be a little bit upfront money provided to SDG to get a cost to find the project, come back to you with a number, and then we'd have a better idea based on the estimated cost of that project, a Florencia project, compared to what our allocation balance is.
Why don't we just go ahead and get that front part done, and then we have two things to look at. We're not getting anywhere right now with Del Mar. It's not moving very fast.
Yeah.
So let's do that on the other area. We're agreeing that we want both those areas done, and maybe when we have all the stats, we can decide which way to go.
And then the other thing I was going to say is, I'm comfortable with outlining for other communities to do this to happen, early next year. So beginning next year, even maybe springtime, so that way it's not as high of a priority, but we're going to get to it.
Do you mean developing a policy approach?
Yeah, a template for a community who wants to fall under 20B and do it themselves. That way, we're giving a little more time to staff to get that accomplished. That's not a high priority. And then we move forward, like Councilman Short said, with getting the cost and timetable for the Florencia project.
I'd also give Laguna Beach a call, because I think they're now half underground, but it's almost all the resident districts that funded it.
That's the approach they take, and I have reached out, and they have a person whose sole job is to do underground. They have about 22 districts, and they follow that assessment district approach by and large. They do use the Rule 20A, but that's not nearly enough for their needs, so they go under the Rule 20B.
And then that
I would
clarifies for Lori
support-
too. It gives an opportunity. We can look at both and talk to the DVA and get input from everyone.
You know, maybe some of these alleys, they would like to form an assessment district, because some of the restaurants have gone in and they want those lines gone.
Yeah.
It could happen much sooner than we'd be able to do it.
Tom, you good?
So let me try and just rephrase the direction. So I think I heard target early next year. That's when we'll talk about and present to you a policy for undergrounding
Yeah,
that talks
a
about those
completed
processes.
policy.
And
Or an
then
outline.
in the near term is to get a flavor of the scope of an assessment district we say North Beach, but we're really talking about, I think, Florencia. I want to make sure that that's the world we're talking about.
Not necessarily a district, but under 20A, so having it.
Well, under 20A, and there still has to be a district.
Oh, okay.
We'll still have to go through a district formation process, and we have to define the boundary of the project, and then I will have to get an estimate from SDG and how much they want to even, once we tell them which lines, they'll do a preliminary engineering analysis to scope out our project and give us an estimated cost, and then we'll have an idea at that point. So I may have to come back to your work with the city manager, depending on what that number is, for them to do a preliminary. But those will be the two main points of your direction. Do I have that correct?
I think so.
I'm sorry, I missed. The first part was that we want to put out a template.
A template, which would be a policy and a set of procedures.
For
For
different communities.
pursuing undergrounding, right.
Right, to set up a district to fund.
Right,
Okay.
and I'm pretty sure I have an idea of what that would look like, and so we'll target, I think, spring.
Okay. I have one card real quick. George, do you want to come and talk? You've sat through the whole meeting. So come on, no, come on up. You usually don't need a microphone, but I think the people at home
George
might
Beach,
appreciate it.
George Gregory, North Beach, criminal. I'm just worried about the timeline and how long we're going to take at this. You know, it sounded like I could dig it with a spoon and have it done before this would even get started the way you guys are proposing. We are amicable to an assessment. Obviously, we would rather not have an assessment or have a shared assessment or something like that. In the area there too, mostly I'm worried about the strollers and the people are hindered, can't use the stairs and stuff on Buena Vista to get to the beach. They go around the corners. They can't go down Mirador because it's so steep. Colina is very steep too. So a lot of people use Florencia, and everything from Maxburg Park, even south of Maxburg Park, goes down Florencia. They all go towards the beach and come down Florencia, walk around the corner and wind up at the beach. So I really think it's a good starting point. And I just would love to expedite it somehow. You know, I don't know what I got to do. Wave the banners, beat the drum. You know, I need some advice on that. We did have this all signed up and ready to go in 2005. And then we had the economic downturn and everybody was a little worried because our houses were upside down.
George, can I interrupt you for a minute?
Sure.
So one of the things, I don't know if you caught what Tom was saying, but about Rule 20A, which is a new change. And so I'll just read you the sentence in the staff report. This approach provides for city-directed projects which are paid for by SDG&E fees collected from all ratepayers, not just those in the area of the underground. So a significant portion of this gets paid for by SDG&E, and that's all tied to, what was it? Undergrounding will restore, as long as undergrounding will restore wheelchair access that is limited or impeded by the facilities.
Yeah.
And so that exists currently.
No, that's
in
fabuloso.
Florencia.
You know,
So it's
that's
different from, you know, the community saying, hey, we're going to pay for this, we're going to support it, we're going to do all the legwork. So
I'm
that's the
just
beauty of
worried
it.
about it becoming, you know, into fruition in 2040 or something like that.
And
I
that's
would
what
like
I-
to see it done soon.
And that's what I wanted to add on was, the problem you have under the A is the fact that we have to accumulate over time the adequate monies to then be able to even think of starting. Whereas if you formed a district and picked up part of the cost in the district, you could possibly bring the timeline a lot closer. So that's something that I think we need to look at and address.
And also the street is, the characteristic on the street too, I had some photos, but I forgot to have them vetted by the the clerk. But if you notice, almost every house there is prepped. It's ready to go. It's, they're anxious. And it's a community health and safety issue, it really is. So
hopefully we can expedite somehow. Give me some direction or something, okay? I'll start digging with my little spoon.
This will be coming back to us, so hopefully we'll get it rolling.
Hopefully it's before next year. Thank you.
This one will be before next year, I can assure you.
Thank you, George.
Oh, I don't know about fiscal year. Now you're getting a little ambitious.
Okay,
That'll
so-
be good, because I'll bring the neighbors in too, if that
Perfect.
helps, all right?
Great.
Right.
So-
Thanks, George.
Tom, do you have enough direction?
I do.
Okay,
15.
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, got it. Okay, oral communications part 2, we have a card.
Okay. We have one card. Warren Vidrine.
Two short subjects. One is whatever can be done to expedite the two-laning of Los Mares from Veracruz to Del Sol. When Del Sol opened up, it worsened a traffic hazard that we've had, which is Estancia turning onto Los Mares. There's no sight line, and it's just people go in there, but whatever they do, if someone's coming around that corner too fast, it's we hope that there's not 2 lanes going, because it's been a mess and there's been a lot of near collisions. So whatever can be done, maybe it can be done. It's really just striping, so maybe it could be done while Del Sol is closed this next month.
You're talking about Del Rio?
Del Rio.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You were committed on Del Sol, so I was like, well.
I live there.
Yeah, Del Rio.
I live there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my point. Second subject, and Councilwoman Dunchak. This is not a good night for me, is it? Anyhow, I'm an analytical chemist. Some of you know that. You may not know that I did some of the analytical methodology for the Hanford site cleanup. Okay, speaking to her point about y'all need to have a future discussion about containers. Watch out. I've seen things that work. I've seen things that turned out not to work. And so watch out for dry storage casks. Those things go one way. It's very hard to get the stuff back out of them. They tend to be too heavy to transport. They're often not very safe to transport. They're not meant to be transported. So before you all agree to bring it into dry storage of any kind, watch out. And that's my word. If I can help you, please call me anytime.
Warren, I'd love to chat with you a little bit more about your perspective on that, because the, part of the canister selection process was the transportation component and the component, as well as a number of other.
I don't want you to inadvertently close off that avenue of transport. 'Cause I want this stuff
I'll get your number, I'll give you a phone
I
call.
want this stuff out of here. There's lots of, there are better places and worse places. Better places are away from active faults, they're away from people, they're away from water.
Great.
And this is none of those.
Yeah, could you throw your phone number on there so I can give you a shout?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay,
Move for adjournment.
we're almost there.
City manager toll road update? Okay. City attorney,
I have nothing to add tonight, thanks.
council members?
I don't have anything. Okay, let's move on.
I just
wait.
wanted to remind about the
CEP
CEP meeting coming up on May 11th at 5:30 PM at the Laguna Hills Community Center. We also have the grand opening for Jim Johnson Park.
Oh, yes.
You got it. I'll announce that. Grand opening for Jim Johnson Park. It's at 4 o'clock on Wednesday, the 10th. And then there is also a ribbon cutting for, for Lyft. The lift ribbon cutting will be coming up in front of 618 Avenida Victoria. SC Rides with Lyft will be officially accepting that program and welcoming it into our city. And then I believe the last item is we have that same project up for consideration under the Golden Hub of Innovations Award that is being held on Friday, May 12th. So we'll see how that goes as well.
And could you send the agenda for the CEP meeting and then plan on reporting out on it at our
Sure.
next meeting under council member items?
Sure. And last item I wanted to just say, I went to, dance had their final concert of the year, the dance program at San Clemente High School. And as always, it was a first-class production. The seniors who are graduating, I mean, year after year, they just produce such an amazing dancers. So I'd like to thank all those in the dance program and all of those who dedicated so much, the parents, the time, the kids, and for everything they've done. They won 3 awards and national champions this year, and they were championships this year, and just fantastic. And so I'd like to congratulate them on another wonderful season and for continuing to set such a high bar for our community. And congratulations and job well done.
I just want to commend staff. I don't know if it's our staff or OCTA staff that did the GIS mapping for the lift application, but that is a tremendous job, whoever did that. It worked great. Was it? Oh, well, Tom Frank, he did a fantastic job. It turned out better than I could have imagined. So good job on that.
Okay, next item is second reading of ordinance 1641. That's regulations related to drones and other unmanned aviation systems.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 1641 entitled an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Clemente, California, amending Municipal Code Title 8, Health and Safety, adding Chapter 8.82, Unmanned Aviation Systems, to establish regulations related to drones and other unmanned remotely operated vehicles.
Motion by Doncheck, second by Ham. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Move that we adjourn to May 16th.
Motion by Doncheck to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Swartz. All in favor? Passes 5-0. Good night, everyone.